call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Education for November 25th, 2025. At this time, we'll take a roll call with us today. Ms. Bardenwerper, Mr. Krasnoff, Mr. Lee, Ms. Jacobson, Mrs. Flynn, Superintendent Testani, Mr. Asa, Ms. Rinaldi, sorry, and Ms. O'Neill, and myself, Jennifer Maxon Kennelly. If everyone could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty for all. So if we can start with our student reports for tonight, and I'm going to defer to the representatives from Ward if you'd like to start us off.
Good evening. Good evening, board members. My name is Aura Corral, and I'm a senior at Fairfield Ward High School. And our first thing on agenda is the Mustang Leadership Empowerment Initiative, which was held by Mr. Moore from the CIAC. He gave a presentation, and he is the assistant director of leadership. And he will also be holding class assemblies on Wednesday, December 3rd. In addition, our Thanksgiving football game will be hosted on Thursday, November 27th at 10 a.m. And a freshman, Chase Coburn, will be live streaming this event. Lastly, Best Buddies Thanksgiving, they hosted a Friendsgiving last Friday in the cafeteria.
Good evening, I'm Anaya D'Souza. Our athletic director, Mrs. DiGiacomo, organized the NLI signing for committed student athletes who will be playing at the collegiate level this week, and she will offer another one in the spring for students who haven't committed yet. We also had the Red Cross Blood Drive, which was held on Monday, November 17th. And finally, the Multi-Language Learning Department sponsors an activity whereby students will prepare a Thanksgiving meal served family style this week.
Okay, thank you. And our representative from Ludlow, please.
Hi, sorry, Mike. So last week was a big week for seniors. We had our Spirit Week, so we had dress up days every day of the week with like fun, different dress up themes, and then that culminated in our homecoming dance for seniors at the end of the week. So we had like pajama day and stuff like that. It was just very fun Spirit Week for our seniors. And in addition, last Tuesday, our Homeroom Falcon Council met with the superintendent, Mr. Testani, and Dr. Hatzis to discuss their opinions on the cell phone policy and raise any concerns that they had. I wasn't there. I'm not a homeroom representative, but I heard that it was just like a lively discussion. And yeah, that's all I know about that. I wasn't there. The benefits and the downsides were discussed. It happened. And we also, on Wednesday, had an advisory that emphasized gratitude, like working towards the theme of like belonging in a school community at Ludlow. And so all of our students wrote notes expressing their gratitude to members of the faculty at Ludlow, and they were delivered to all of the people that students wrote their notes to. So that was like a lovely thing, very on theme with the season. And in addition to that, going on with the theme of gratitude and belonging, we have a program that's called Let's Chat, where we're having these new table tents that are on our cafeteria tables and in the library. And these have just like different questions and ideas to start conversation. And this is all working towards the idea of having ways for students to connect with each other and having like some inspiration and a little bit of guidance towards feeling like a more connected school community. Tomorrow we have Alumni Day on our half day before Thanksgiving. So the class of 2025 are going to come back and visit, say hello to their teachers and their friends. And some of them will be participating in alumni panels where current seniors can go ask questions about their college experience at all different types of schools and just like get a little bit of advice from people that are out there living like what seniors are facing. And finally, we have our rivalry football game on Thursday at 10 a.m. That's all from me. I'm from Ludlow.
Thank you. And our representative from Walter Fitzgerald.
Got you. Hi, good evening. My name is Allie Cooper. We held our end of the first marking period award assembly and were able to recognize our students for perfect attendance, academic achievement, and demonstrating growth in the Walter Fitzgerald way of wisdom, fortitude, and character. Our Pathways to Career program has continued to grow, and we have successfully brought professionals from the Bearsley Zoo, Timex Corporation, and the pharmaceutical industry into our school. These experiences help expose our student body to the wide range of career opportunities available to them and increase their understanding of the educational and networking steps they can follow to pursue post-secondary options. WFC is partnering with the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services to introduce their Level Up program, a job skills program for students age 16 and above, as well as staff. The school also presented an online parent meeting last Thursday with guest speakers from Child and Family Guidance to assist parents with the challenges of raising students who are free from substance use. We are collaborating with Harbor Watch and Tim Bishop, the town of Fairfield's conservation director, to install litter booms in Rooster River and Mill River. Our marine science students will design and engineer the litter boom for Mill River. We are collaborating with the Mill River Wetland Committee to identify a suitable location along the Mill River. Our students will monitor the litter boom, collect and categorize any litter. Harbor Watch will monitor the litter boom on Rooster River. WFC is grateful this holiday season for the generous donations of blessing bags for each family provided to us by the Nutty Company and the Special Education Parent Teacher Association.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Lee, do we have anything for an encore for Fairfield Ludlow?
Yeah, I think we're good on that. But yeah, make sure to show up to the Ward Ludlow football game Thursday morning at 10 a.m.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Anybody on the board have any questions? I'm not sure who wants to answer this, Ward or Ludlow, but just wanted to confirm that the tickets have to be, if you go live to the game as opposed to the live stream, you do have to pay in advance. Is that correct?
Yes, all tickets need to be purchased in advance prior to attending the game on Thursday.
And is there also a food drive?
There is a food drive. You're taking away all my announcements for
sorry.
later. But I just wanted to add, the Falcon Council, we had a great discussion, as Sophia mentioned, and I really enjoyed the time with the students, hearing their perspective on things and giving them some life lessons as well. I think hopefully it resonates, some of the stuff resonated with them as they continue on the rest of the school year.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members? All right, so our student representatives, obviously you're welcome to stay. Maybe you'll want to give us some feedback on the social studies curriculum or anything else on the agenda, but otherwise, if you choose to leave, I wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving and look forward to seeing you in December. At this time, we'll move on to item number 4 in the agenda, public comment. Members of the public are invited to come up and speak for up to 3 minutes on any agenda item. We just ask that you please say your name and address for the record of the minutes. Any members of the public like to speak?
So sorry. Let's try this again. Deb Poole. I live at 61 Blake Drive. I have students at Fairfield Ludlow and Roger Ludlow. I am here to respectfully urge the board to delay the vote of the proposed AI policy until we've had more time, oversight, and collaborative input to really help its development. At the recent policy committee, or I guess it's about a month ago now, a member noted that the policy was vague, but still considered it a good starting point and expected that it would be revised down the road. But I do want to ask, why are we accepting a vague policy when clarity and specificity are so critical, especially with something as fast-moving and consequential as AI? And I want to know who benefits from a policy that leaves so much undefined. And if this is truly a starting point, then what exactly is down the road? How much AI will be introduced to students between now and then, and what oversight will exist in the meantime? It's not about resisting innovation. I use AI at home. It's just about ensuring that we implement it with thoughtfulness, structure, expert input, Other districts have already modeled how to do this well. Stratford's AI policy that was adopted earlier this year includes a detailed breakdown of permitted use cases organized by purpose, such as research support, creative work, skill development, and academic feedback. It includes age-appropriate guidance and clear accountability structures, and the commitment to ongoing oversight through a standing AI task force. So these aren't small additions. They really are the scaffolding that turns this Board of Ed's leadership into responsible action. Fairfield's draft is just too general. A board's permission or a broad permission list paired with teacher discretion places too much responsibility on individuals without providing the system level support that they deserve. It's not fair to teachers and it's not clear to students. We need a policy that outlines what is allowed, also with how it's going to be implemented, addressed, and adapted over time. Please consider forming a task force, just like Stratford did, to support a policy committee. You guys are awesome, but you need our help. So we want to craft the best version of this policy. It could include experts like child development, teachers, technologists, even a college and career counselor to really balance the future-ready goals with real-time responsibility. The policy is going to lay the groundwork for new technology and how it's introduced, and I think we deserve it. It deserves our best effort. Thank you. Oh, I can pass this around as the Stratford policy.
Sure.
Any other members of the public?
Good evening. My name is Ellie Fateh. Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Okay. Good evening. My name is Ellie Fatehi, 98 Flora Boulevard. So, Section 230 of the Communication Act provides immunity to tech companies. This means not only are they unregulated, but we cannot hold them accountable for any harm. There's no transparency or oversight for AI outputs. AI has not been proven to be safe or effective for educational purposes. In fact, real-world evidence over the last 10 to 15 years has shown us that tech has decreased the quality of education. Instead of learning from our mistakes, we are allowing those tech companies to push AI into our classrooms, marketing it as a learning tool. The use of AI as a learning tool is untested. Currently, there's no conclusive or quality research demonstrating that generative AI improves student outcomes. However, emerging evidence suggests that the use of these tools may impair cognitive development and critical thinking skills in both students and adults. Large language models have known error and hallucination rates upwards of 30% or more in certain contexts. Even platforms like Magic School AI acknowledge that their products will make mistakes. These inaccuracies can go easily unnoticed and may mislead students who are still building foundational knowledge. Students do not yet have the skills to evaluate the validity of AI-generated content. There's no guarantee that generative AI tools are safe for students, especially since these technologies are largely unregulated. These products may expose students to inappropriate or harmful content and interactions. Even the developers of these tools acknowledge these risks. In addition, there are growing reports of AI-related mental health impacts, including cases of AI-induced psychosis in adults and children. AI is experimental. The long-term impact on children is unknown. However, real-world evidence is signaling harm. It's one thing to experiment on adults, but we should take a moment and pause as it relates to experimentation on children. This policy does not include any safeguards or safety measures. Our neighboring district, Stratford, has developed a robust policy that includes specific language around academic integrity, prohibited use, and guardrails. Districts that have embraced AI, also referenced in Stratford's policy, have established an AI task force to provide ongoing oversight and monitoring. Our policy is lacking as it relates to these best practices. Our policy is simply a scaled back version of language lifted from a sample policy by the Connecticut Association of Boards of Directors, Boards of Education, excuse me. I asked that this particular policy be sent back and rewritten with clear language and safety measures to protect our children. Thank you. And I also have the Stratford policy to pass around.
Hi, Megan McHale, 188 Range Road. I recently read the book Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams, who is a former executive at Facebook. Multiple times in the book, she referenced a poster on the wall at their executive offices that said, "Move fast and break things," which is without a doubt exactly what they have done. I'm here today to say that we, as a community of public school educators and parents, should never apply this philosophy to what we do. Taking risks on untested or undertested technology is a disservice to our children. We simply do not yet know what the effect of artificial intelligence will be on this generation. Let's be sure to only bring in technology that we know is good, rather than only blocking technology that we think is bad. I hope you will consider rewriting the Board of Ed's AI policy to more aggressively protect our students.
Mr. Balch, you do need to wrap it up if you could. Or if you could also email your prepared comments to us. Okay. Thank you. Any other members of the public? All right, moving on then. We're moving on to item number 5, presentations, beginning with Student Voices of Thanksgiving video. Mr. Testani?
Yep, our communications director, Rachel Chapa, created a short video. Our students wanted to share some of their thoughts and thankfulness during this holiday season. So we're just going to be entertained for the next, I believe, 3 minutes. Thankful for Rachel for putting all that together because it's a lot to do, as you can see.
Which provides us with a perfect transition in terms of a lot to do and being thankful as we move into the presentation and first reading of the social studies curriculum and textbooks, a task that is many, many months in the making, and we look forward to this.
Before they begin, I just want to recognize first and foremost Colleen Sousa. Colleen went in the middle of flying this plane from a participant to leading this work. And I just want to commend her for her excellent job because I know it wasn't easy to get so many people in a room and work collectively on a common goal. You know, when it gets to this point, you see 899 pages, but that's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears by a large group of educators that are committed to their students here in Fairfield. So thank you to all of you who worked on it, whether you're here in the room or somewhere at home. But Colleen, great job. So proud to work with you.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know if I should apologize for giving you a 900-page homework assignment, but we are very excited to be here. We are really proud of the work that we have been doing for the past 2 years. Again, I began this process as a teacher and then moved into my new role as program director. I'm also proud to have up here with me tonight Katie Moore from Fairfield Ludlow High School, Mark Drexel from Fairfield Ward High School, and Caitlin Epstein from Roger Ludlow Middle School. So I would like to recognize them. I also would like to recognize all the social studies teachers in the room. If you could all stand and be recognized. Claire, you stand too, Mrs. Staffstrom. So without further ado, we'll get started. So I wanted to begin the presentation by drawing your attention to the Fairfield Public Schools vision of a graduate and pairing that with the Connecticut Framework for Social Studies C3 standards. And I just wanted to take a moment to highlight that C3, which is the framework that we built all of our documents around, stands for college, career, and civic life, which is really the goal of all of these documents to prepare our students to be ready for the next steps, whatever those steps may be, and ultimately to prepare them to be informed participants in our democracy. So on this next slide, I blew up the C3 just so that you could see it a little more closely. The C3 is designed around 4 different dimensions. The first dimension is asking questions. The second dimension is content or disciplinary tools. So that means students are thinking like historians, economists, geographers, and political scientists. The third is evaluating sources and using evidence. And the fourth is communicating their conclusions and taking informed action. So if you look at the bottom, you'll see history, economics, geography, and civics are pulled out. And I wanted to take special note because this is primarily what our documents are organized around. We are proposing documents that are very content forward and very specific so that you could see exactly what your students will be learning in each unit. When you actually look at the standards specifically, you'll see that they all work together. And I pulled this visual just to show that although each one of these dimensions works within the construct of all 4, really the green gear, which is dimension 2, the content is the driver. It's the biggest gear, and it's what we're really leaning into and what we leaned into as we drafted these documents. So when you look at our curriculum documents, I just want to break down how they read and explain how the standards look and why they look the way that they do. So in the curriculum documents, in the standards box, what you'll see is a split. First, you'll actually see standards from Dimension 2, which is the content standards. So you'll see standards that are history, geography, civics, or economics. And we kept those separate because those are first and foremost what is driving our documents. Separate from that, you're going to see the Dimension 1, 3, and 4, which are all grouped together. Those are the skills standards. And when we think about the skills standards, we like to refer to it as this is where students do the work of social studies. These are our tools with which we practice our discipline. So yes, we're teaching them content, but we want them to be using that content as evidence ultimately to answer questions, to take positions, to take informed actions. Similar to in a math class, you're teaching them how to attack a problem. The teacher might go through the content, but then the student needs that practice. We look at our practice as those dimension 1, 3, and 4 skills. So we're leading with content, but we will also have the skills built into our documents too. On the right hand of the slide, I pulled out just to show you 3 different standards at the grade 5, the grade 8, and the grade 11 level, all relating to the Constitution. So you could see how similar content is approached at the different levels. You can see how in grade 5, they're examining. As we move into grade 8, we're leveling that up by them explaining how the Constitution is evolving. And then by the time they get to 11th grade, they're analyzing. So although the content is similar, we're talking about the Constitution. As we progress through the grade levels, we're elevating the skill, the depth, and the nuance with which they're approaching that content. One other thing I want to point out, which might have looked confusing when you were going through our documents, is that at the end of each standard, you'll see in parentheses an EG with a list of topics. We left those in. Those are the state's determined topics. They are not our topics. So it might have looked a little bit funny to see an EG that might not have matched the unit that we assigned that standard to. That's because we felt that we were achieving and covering what was in the body of the standard, not the EG. The EGs were meant to be illustrative, not exhaustive, or not required. We left them in because they come from the state. It wasn't really editable by us. But the other reason that we left them in is that these are new standards, and we've been assured that if the state passes new legislation that requires us to cover anything in our social studies curriculum, these standards will give us coverage for that. So we'd be able to go back into the standard, look at where that content is, and then it will help us fit it in. So it might have looked a little weird. Maybe they're talking about, something from earlier in US history in a later US history unit, but we kept those in because they came from the state. The content that we're covering was in that bulleted list that you saw in the body of each unit. One other thing that you will note as you read through the body of our documents, you will see a lot of repetition of content, of concepts, and of skills. That's because in social studies, our skills and our content spiral. It is built on the belief from the C3 that over time, students can approach the same concepts with nuance and depth as they get older. So you're going to see a lot of things like the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. The first time they learn about the Declaration of Independence, they will be in first grade. They're not looking at it as a first grader the same way they're going to look at it as a civic student in 11th grade. So if you look at the bullets, you'll see that what we do with each of these dimensions is we increase the level of complexity as they're moving through the grades. The idea is to build sophistication of their knowledge, their nuance through that spiral. So for example, when they're learning about content, in elementary school, they're going to start by describing. As they get into upper elementary school, they're going to start to explain. Same through middle school. The end of middle school, they'll start to analyze, and then eventually they'll be evaluating by the time they get to high school. So for example, with the American Revolution in elementary school, they might be learning about the Intolerable Acts or the Boston Tea Party. By the time they get to middle school, they're adding in the French and Indian War. And then by the time they get to high school, they're learning about the end of salutary neglect and the formation of a new American culture and identity, which is a much more nuanced, detailed conversation. It might look the same in the list of content objectives, but they're approaching it with, again, more nuance and sophistication. The end goal of this is to develop students that have the ability to critically analyze and apply and become informed participants in our democracy. Oh no. Okay. I skipped one. So our process, how did we get to these 900 pages? We did committee work at all levels. So K-5, we had approximately a 20-member team that included teachers from a variety of schools, administrators, library media specialists, and special education professionals. In the middle school, we had committee teams that took the lead on each document, but every single middle school teacher had eyes on their document and had the ability to give input and feedback on what was written. The same goes for the high school. There were teams that took the lead on each of our courses, particularly the electives, depending on people's content expertise. But there was a lot of whole group work where people had the ability to contribute to the brainstorming, the writing, the editing, and give final input as recently as Election Day. In terms of our textbook selection process, the textbooks ultimately were all chosen by teachers. We went through a 3-round process for the elementary, the middle, and the high school. The elementary presentations were from Studies Weekly, where we ultimately landed, Inquire Ed, and McGraw-Hill. From middle and high school, we saw McGraw-Hill, HMH, BFW, Norton, and Nat Geo. We ultimately, for middle and high school, are using a combination of all of those publishers except for HMH because they don't offer any printed books. They only have online platform now for the upper grades, which is not something that we were in favor of. We believe in having a print book option. All of this was done at department meeting time work, summer work, PLT work, after school paid time. So it was a lot of people working on all of these documents and stopping to check in with the whole group as we went. So here are the major changes that we are presenting. You're going to see updated documents with new social studies standards. You're going to see detailed content objectives across all documents. You're going to see new opportunities for interdisciplinary learning, especially in the elementary school and the middle school. There will be a new K-5 resource, a redesigned grade 9 and 10 offering, 2 new AP offerings for the high school, and 6 new elective options for the high school. So we'll start with K-5. So this is just on these next 2 slides, a very brief overview of what is in the newly designed K-5 curriculum. I pulled out for each grade level what the 3 units are that they're going to be covering, as well as what are some of the key concepts that they'll be discussing in the context of that unit. But I also put in there, you'll note that it says intro, just so you could see like when is the first time they're going to be learning something. So I have in first grade, for example, intro to the founding fathers. They're going to be talking about the founding fathers throughout the rest of the grades too, but the first time they're going to be introduced to them is in first grade. The first time they're going to look at a map and start talking about how to read a map, interpret a map, is in kindergarten, but they will be seeing maps every single year. Grade 4 and grade 5 are our most dense areas of social studies curriculum. Grade 4, we're really leaning into the geography piece. I know that was something that was important to the board. They are going to do geography at every level, but 4th grade is when they're doing the 50 states, the 7 continents, the 5 oceans, and they're accountable for that content. Grade 5 is when they're going to learn about the American Revolution. So grade 4 and grade 5 is the most social studies dense. However, all of the grade levels have more detailed social studies embedded in it. The content that they will be covering in elementary school, K-5, is much more specific. And the reason that we can do that is because we're proposing a resource. K-5 teachers are not trained social studies teachers. They may not have the expertise, and it's very hard for them to teach that without a resource, which is what we've been doing, which is why I think some of our social studies education has been general. Now, with a resource, we'll have the ability to make it much more specific, and what the teachers chose is called Studies Weekly. Studies Weekly is a weekly reader style resource that is very dense. If you line it up with a textbook, I actually find it to be more content rich. I love this resource. Notably, it is Connecticut standards aligned. It even has a whole set just for Connecticut history that our students can use and view. It has very strong instructional resources to support the rollout for the teachers, principals, graphic organizers, primary sources, video support. It also is lined up with interreading, and I'll speak to that on the next slide. One of the other things that's really important is it has very strong ELML Special Ed 504 support so that it could be accommodated. It can also be translated and pushed out in any language that exists. It has that capability, and that's part of the online platform of resources. Finally, one of the things that I really loved as a Fairfield parent myself is they have a teaching strategy called Safely In, Safely Out. For our fifth grade students, they're talking about a lot of topics that are new and really heavy, such as enslavement and treatment of Indigenous peoples. And it develops a questioning strategy to bring the students safely into the topic, but then to get them safely out so they can move on with their day while respecting and acknowledging the seriousness of the content that they just covered. So as a mom and a teacher, that was something that I found really compelling about this resource. I included on this slide a picture of a crosswalk document that the company supplied us with into reading. So this is an example of the kindergarten one, but I have them for all six grade levels. And what it does is it lines up the into reading unit and module with the studies weekly issue that would complement it. So once we are approved, Ms. Goss and I are going to sit and we're going to adjust the pacing guide so that we can provide for maximum interdisciplinary connection to be made. Also, the layout of the resource supports the HMH pillars of literacy, particularly vocabulary development and reading comprehension. Each issue comes with a vocabulary flip chart and the words that the class would be focused on that week, and it supports vocabulary in the same style that Into Reading does as well. It also is a lot of informational text, and I truly believe that the more informational text we give students, the more we could build their background knowledge, the more successful they'll be, not only on state testing, but in middle school and high school as well. There also is a lot of opportunity for interdisciplinary connection with the Library Media Center. We've identified 1 unit per grade level as the sample collaboration unit with the library. It's typically unit 2 or 3, where the library will push in and provide research support for our students. And we've started to look at the resources that can be used through those units as well. And then lastly, Ms. LaSala and I have sat and we've talked about and looked at the standards in Unit 1 of Grade 2, and I believe it's Unit 2 in Grade 4. There's actually a lot of overlap between the social studies and the science standards, and we flushed out what an interdisciplinary unit could look like for science and social studies in Grade 2 and Grade 4, which we plan to create once this is approved. We just didn't want to do that just in case. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic to Kate to talk about middle school.
Hi, I'm Kate Epstein. I teach 6th grade social studies at Roger Ludlow Middle School. And I think speaking on behalf of all the middle school social studies teachers, we're very excited about some of the improvements and changes that we've made to these 3 grade level documents. As you can see, for all 3 of them, we did not make a lot of drastic changes, but I think we have made some really engaging improvements. Right off the bat, for both 6th grade and 7th grade, since it is a 2-year course, you'll notice that the name of the course has changed to kind of reflect that thinking. Instead of World Regional Studies, we are now World Cultures and Geography, which I think is really putting an emphasis on what we're looking at over those 2 years. Not only the geography of these areas, both current day and historical, but also broadening students' perspectives on these world cultures. For 8th grade, it is United States history, and each of the 3 documents have content-specific bullets for each of the documents. The textbooks were also agreed upon by all the teachers. We went through an extensive process trying to really figure out which resource would be not only the most engaging for students of this age, but also would offer a lot of different perspectives and historical information. I personally think the most exciting thing about this curriculum for all 3 grade levels is that we are now incorporating a class text that all students will be reading. For 6th grade, it is the Young Readers Edition of I Am Malala. For 7th grade, it is the story, Long Walk to Water, and in 8th grade is Day of Tears. Personally speaking, as a 6th grade teacher, we have already incorporated the I Am Malala into our curriculum. And I have to say, it's at the end of the year, and it's one of the most moving and engaging topics that I have with the students. It's a great way to connect to current day situations, taking everything that they've learned about, kind of putting it in a real life perspective, but also being very aware that these still are middle school students, not yet high school students, and done with a lot of awareness of that. So I really feel that these 3 years are going to prepare the students for all the exciting offerings at the high school.
So on the next slide, I just pulled one sample unit from the 6th and 7th grade. This is actually the first region studied by 7th grade, which is their East Asia unit. And I pulled this just so you could see kind of like the methodology of how the geography course is structured, how you begin by looking at the physical geography, you're looking at the impact that it has on the settlement of the land, and then you hit all through the historical highlights just so you could see how much content is actually covered in each unit. So in East Asia, they're learning about ancient Chinese history, they're learning about Japanese history, they're learning about Korean history, Mao. They're hitting all of the important highlights, but the purpose of it is to really help students understand what's happening in the modern day, to really contextualize the things that are going on in their worlds. In terms of interdisciplinary connections, there are many research experiences that are interdisciplinary with the library media curriculum. There is typically one per marking period in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Those have been written into the documents. As far as ELA, I sat and did a crosswalk with their curriculum, and I met with Ms. Heller, and we identified these points of interdisciplinary overlap. We would love, if I could make a plug now, if in the future English and social studies could be on the same revision cycle. It might make things a little bit easier, but this is what we were able to identify. So the unit on geography in 6th grade overlaps with the ELA project on cultures. The unit on Middle East overlaps with the unit on fables, and folktales. And then when the students are reading I Am Malala, it overlaps with the ELA unit on making a positive impact. In 7th grade, when the students are learning about communism and authoritarianism, it overlaps with the students' reading of Hunger Games. And in Unit 5, when they're learning about Native American oral traditions, that overlaps with units on mythology. In 8th grade, the students do a really large research project on manifest destiny and whether it's a triumph or a tragedy. And the ELA teachers echo that essential question as a theme within their instruction. And then the students are reading Night in ELA when they're learning about World War II and the Holocaust in US history. Now on to high school. I apologize that this is very small, but I was trying to get it all in one place. This is our new proposed high school scope and sequence. Anything that is highlighted in yellow is a new course. So in 9th grade, we have a new course, Modern World History, CP and Honors. And the 10th grade, we have a redesigned core course, Regional Studies, CP and Honors. This is actually designed based on a course that I first taught here when I started 20 years ago. That was my favorite course that I ever taught. So we wanted to bring that back because we felt like it was an enriching experience. We also have opened up electives to 10th graders. So you'll see on that highlighted list are new electives: Human Rights in the Modern World, Women in the World, Sports History. What am I missing? It's so small I can't even read it on my page, sorry. Oh, Native American Studies, my apologies. We also have our split African American and Black Studies and Latino Puerto Rican Studies, which is just a split of our full year ECE course. so that students have the opportunity to take it as a semester course if they can't fit the full year into their schedule. And our two new AP courses, AP Art History and AP Human Geography.
Hi, Mark Drexel. I teach at Fairfield Ward High School. And as Colleen just told you, we made some major changes to our scope and sequence for 9th and 10th grade. Currently, what we offer in our 9th grade course is global history, essentially ancient global history, and that parlays with our current sophomore offering of modern global studies. It was meant to be a 2-year curricular arc where students learned everything about the story of us from ancient times all the way through the modern times. It functioned really well for a long time. And then, frankly, as the world changed and as our students' needs changed, we decided to take this opportunity to make some curricular changes to better meet their needs. And that led us to taking a hard look at what we wanted to offer for our 9th grade year. And we realized that with a vertical alignment of our 6th and 7th grade courses that Kate talked about, we could fold that content into our 6th and 7th grade classes as well into our proposed 10th grade course. So we're not losing that history or that content. We just found maybe better and more appropriate places for it. And that opened us the opportunity to move our current modern global course into, with a redesign, our modern world course for 9th grade. We decided to do that because when we look at modern world history, we're starting essentially with the Enlightenment and we're going through the modern day, really concrete topics. It's high interest history and it allows us to have concrete primary sources with which to use in the classroom. It's more accessible. The topics engage the students, frankly, a little bit more, and it allows us to build in more skills into that 9th grade year, that pivotal 9th grade year where we're transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade. When we think about the 10th grade course, Colleen previewed the now proposed modern world history. Regional studies. We're proposing regional studies for our 10th grade year. That allows us to slow down a little bit and students will take the background they learned from their 9th grade year and will now spend a quarter in each region of the world. And that allows us to slow down for 10 weeks and students can learn everything in that specific region from ancient times all the way through modern times while connecting with the background that they learned with our 9th grade year.
Hi, Katie Moore, Fairfield Ludlow High School. So what's changed and why? So in terms of looking at US history, the units and content have been adjusted to reach the modern, more modern content. Teachers from both 8th and 11th grade met to talk about the US history curriculum. And I think Colleen described it best with looking at content as the driver to help build those skills in a spiral. And so by them meeting together and talking about, you know, the nuance of what they're doing in 8th grade. I think you mentioned too with the westward expansion, you know, maybe looking at it more from like a social history, a people's history. Not that political history isn't going to be there, of course it will, but you'll see in 11th grade it is more about a political history with obviously touches on social histories, but definitely nuances there. The perspectives, looking at different perspectives in, you know, in 11th grade is going to be different than what you're doing in 8th grade. And then in terms of civics, what we did is we currently have 3 different half-year civics courses. And so what we wanted to do was ensure a more common experience by condensing that into one common civics course. And so that's going to emphasize, of course, the Constitution, structure, process of government. And one of the things that I think we were most excited about is incorporating a civic action project. So kids are going to be taking what they've learned throughout that semester and actually doing something with it. So we're really excited about that prospect with working with our school community and hopefully our outside community to create those action projects.
So one of the things we wanted to draw your attention to is we prepared 2 different documents per each course, a college prep version of the document and an honors version of the document. And as you can see in the example there, the learning goal for each, the college prep and the honors document, is exactly the same. And it was important for us that all the students are getting access to the same learning goals and requiring mastery for those learning goals. And we just wanted to illustrate the difference between what a college prep student will experience in the same version of the now proposed Modern World course. And as you can see, there's more indicator bullets on the honor section of different content that will add nuance and depth. All students are getting everything they need to fully understand the historical concepts. But for the honors version, we just added a little bit more content that will necessitate likely a faster pace in the class and then more student ownership of that content outside of school. So that's why you'll see slightly longer, more detailed content indicators for the honors document.
And then, of course, we also wanted to look at how college prep and honors courses are written differently. And so if you take a look at college prep, just that first bullet, and you compare it to the honors, if obviously we're both looking at, creating a thesis statements and a claim with a line of reasoning. But when you look at the college prep, it is a little bit more defined in terms of evaluating the impact of Cold War dynamics, decolonization, human rights efforts. But then for honors, it's a little like they could use those, but it's not limited. It's a little bit more broader. They can come up with their own. And that's sort of the expectation between the two.
So just some other areas to highlight. We are introducing 2 new AP courses, AP Human Geography and AP Art History, which we're very excited about. And like I said before, we have 6 new electives that are open 10 to 12 that are both historical and contemporary. As our decision-making process kind of unfolded for what electives to offer, we looked at electives offered by neighboring districts. We also gave students a survey and we analyzed the student responses. But I also took a look at demand for social studies classes. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is when you look at the class of 2025 and their transcripts, the graduating class, they took on average 4.2 credits of social studies when the requirement is only 3.5. So we do feel like there is high demand for great social studies electives, and we wanted to just make our offerings more robust. So we landed on Native American Studies, Women in the World, Sports History, Human Rights in the Modern World. And then, like I said before, we did see as we these past few years have offered the Black and Latino Studies course that so many students want to take it, but having a full year block in their schedule was prohibitive for some of them. So we took the existing curriculum and we literally just broke it in half. So these are not necessarily new electives, but they just provide an opportunity for students who might only have a semester to take a portion of the course. We're envisioning it being nested, and we just want to get as many students into those courses as possible so that it's not necessarily a new course. In terms of what we're not offering anymore or what we're removing from the program of studies, we are removing contemporary U.S. history. There was just not demand for that course. And then, as Katie mentioned, we're collapsing the 3 previous civics options into just one civics and government course. In terms of our textbooks, all of our U.S. history textbooks are remaining the same, just updated copyrights. Most of our elective texts are remaining the same with just updated copyrights. I did list out the specific books that we are changing in the Q&A. If you'd like me to speak to why we made those decisions, I can. Mostly it was having teachers look at, the accessibility of the text, the way that the material was laid out, looking at kind of hot button content issues and how they're approached in the text, and then what the online platforms and online resources offered to students. Last but not least is cost. So our cost for implementation is about $1 million. That is a big number. Most of that, of course, is driven by books. So our elementary resource is $45,783. That is a renewable expense. If we purchase for multiple years, that cost goes down. For the first year, though, I would like a 1-year contract so we could try it out and see and make sure, that we like it and teachers are using it, and then we can explore a longer term contract. And then for the middle school and high school book costs, I priced out that is for a print book and a digital license. Depending on companies, it's for 6 or 8 years, that license. Um, and I can kind of talk about the cost differences. I have the different breakdowns, but that's what I propose really is the best that we can offer our students. I am in favor of a print book, especially in some of our higher level courses where we're asking students to do significant reading. I don't want them reading 50 pages of a textbook on a screen. I don't think they absorb the information in the same way. However, there are so many resources available on the online platforms in terms of test preparation and extension opportunity and videos, as well as if you need to modify or accommodate or have a book read to you. All of that is available on the online platform. Also in the classroom, we send the books home, but we all often get emails saying, oh, I'm at my other parents this weekend and I don't have my book. What's the online login? Or I'm traveling and I'm going to do my homework on the plane or at the tournament or whatever. It is nice for them to have the online as well, especially with the amount of features that are available. So I'm proposing that we do both. I think that's the best resources that we can give our kids. As far as curriculum hours in terms of implementation guides and developing our common unit assessments, I budgeted $25,000. There's no additional FTE impact immediately. We feel that we can do this with the staff that we have. Questions and comments?
Okay, questions from the board. Mr. Krasnoff.
Thank you. I just want to thank your team. We met multiple times in the curriculum committee, and Ms. Guernsey is not here, but I know she would love for me to thank you guys as well. The work you guys did was excellent. All of you in the audience, you guys did a great job. I want to highlight the spiraling and interdisciplinary. You guys really thought through everything. I especially like that the elementary schools are now going to have some kind of article or document to go along with the teaching. I think it's really important. I see what goes on in the elementary schools, and unfortunately, they don't have material to use, so it becomes a little more difficult. And bleeding them into the ELA is great. We did have some comments about some of the high school courses and whether some of the electives or the APs could maybe be offered in 9th grade as well. I don't know if you guys looked into it or not. I don't know if Dr. Sabajansi wants to come up and comment as well about it.
So we had a department meeting between our meeting and this meeting, and we had a very long, fairly intense conversation about whether we should open up electives to 9th grade. And there were lots of compelling arguments on both sides, and we ultimately landed with no for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, we felt that 9th grade already is adjusting to high school. It would be a lot for a 9th grader to take 2 social studies courses because we wouldn't want whatever the elective is to supplant the core course. In terms especially of we want to control that core knowledge that they are getting, and we feel like what's built into the 9th grade course is really the essential global history that you need to know. We also felt that we looked at our electives, and we did feel that a lot of our electives, the teacher would have to kind of go back and cover some of that essential global history in order to get them ready to talk about like the 1972 Olympics, or if they're learning about Jesse Owens and why that was such a big deal in sports history, if they hadn't learned about totalitarianism and fascism and the Nazis yet, it wouldn't be as powerful. We just felt like there was a lot of core knowledge that we needed to cover in ninth grade before students could be optimally successful in those electives.
I appreciate that answer. Could we just keep an eye on the enrollment? Because it may, having an extra grade may help enrollment. So I just want to make sure all these classes are enrolled properly. And I'm sure a lot of the board members would like to see that as well. Other than that, I want to thank you. And again, I know this was a lot of hard work and the document was great. And I especially do love your approach to the 1-year trial. I think the Studies Weekly is going to go really well personally, but trying it out for a year, if it works, maybe we can come up with cost savings. I think is great. So thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Rinaldi?
Thank you again. I know I don't want to reiterate what Mr. Krasnov said. I just want to confirm with the Studies Weekly, currently there is no materials in the elementary school. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is an implementation guide that has a lot of links and other things that have been gathered from a variety of places, but there's no core instructional social studies resource.
Wonderful, wonderful. I just wanted to confirm that. And that'll just be a supplement to the teachers' teachings because they may not have that deep knowledge that middle school teachers or high school teachers may have.
One of the things that it features on the website is it does provide as well teacher background information. So the teacher can log on and they can read whatever would need to be essential. But the articles themselves are very robust that, the teacher could read through the article, go through the lesson plan and have what they need. But it does have that additional teacher background material too.
That's so helpful. Thank you so much. And then too, I really appreciate you looking at the demand for social studies courses as well. So you said that it's about 4.2.
4.2.
Okay, that's across the high school.
So that was looking at all of the class of 2025. We pulled their transcripts and looked at how many social studies credits on average the students had, and it was 4.2.
Okay, so that makes sense when looking at all the yellow on the high school revision sheet as well. Okay, thank you so much. That's great.
Thanks.
Mrs. Jacobson?
Thank you for the presentation and for the 900 pages and the additional supporting documents. I read every one, and bravo to you all. Incredible body of work. And so what I'm going to be doing is in order to expedite this process, since this is in fact a first read and we're going to be voting on these documents, I'm going to get to a couple of editing questions, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
For the grade 9 modern world history honors class on page 19, on page 11 and 12, the content is missing in our backup. So the content and skills on those pages are not included. They just read as blank pages. And I went to the non-honors course and so that's how I know it's content and skills for that unit. It's the unit 2. Under the learning goals. Grade 9, the non-honors course, page 19. There's a list on there that lists the multinational alliances. It's listed twice. In the corresponding course on the other curriculum document, the honors one, it's multinational alliances, and then NATO is the one. So I was wondering if in the college prep, one of those multinational alliances was meant to be NATO.
Yes.
Okay. The textbook for the regional studies course, the curriculum document reads Modern World History Fold Survey, but the textbook form says World History Fold Survey. So I just wanted to make sure, right textbook, should the word modern be in there or not?
I'll
Just make sure
double
we're
check
not ordering something that we shouldn't, since I wasn't sure about
I
that.
believe it is modern, but I'm going to double check.
Okay, so for another textbook for the regional studies course, the curriculum document included a title called Geography, the Human and Physical World, but I didn't see in any form for that. Is that something that we already have?
So McGraw-Hill was going to, as part of their online package, allow the students to search their geography content, but that's not something that we're purchasing, and it's not a book that we're going to have.
Okay, it was just listed in the doc as a resource, so I was looking for it on your subsequent lists and didn't see it on there, so I just wanted to make sure we hadn't missed that piece. And I'm just firing things at you because I'm sure there's a lot of people have a lot of questions.
Yep.
I had an overall question in the quantities of the textbooks, just looking at going, analyzing all of the enrollments. But for the U.S. History College Prep textbook, the U.S. History, the full survey, the enrollment that was shared with us was 300, but the requested copies was 250. And I'm not going to go through every single instance of this, but I just would ask that for the next time we can make sure that we were looking at enrollment to what you're asking, because I noted several instances where there was more kids enrolled than the copies you were asking. And then in some instances, I think it was sociology, you were asking for a pretty bigger number than actually was the enrollment. So just if we can take a look at even for the weeklies, for the elementary school students, I looked at our enrollment now, the numbers that you were requesting, and just kind of looking out a little bit. Do we feel that's going to be enough of what you're right? So that just that whole list in terms of the quantities, and if you think they're really right sized, might be a little bit adjustments here and there. Even if it's 25 books, that can be like $4,000. So, that those add up quickly, and maybe it needs to go somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay. The U.S. History Honors, Unit 4, page 26. You're talking about the legislative laws and things that have impacted in that particular unit. The honors one didn't list Title IX, but the college prep didn't. So I don't know if that was a miss or if that was an intentionally not
The
put
college
into that one.
prep, I'm sorry to interrupt. The college prep did have it, but the honors didn't?
Right.
Okay, so we can adjust that.
And I'm not saying adjust or not. I'm just noting, is that supposed to be in and it was missed? Or
It
is
should
that,
be there.
Yeah, okay, all right. The civics textbook, the ask is for 300. I looked in last year, 418 students took the non-AP options, which 300 is less, but my guess is that's because they're semester based and that you would be kind of doubling up per se, so to speak. Okay. Okay, I have a question on the Asian American, Black, and Latino, and we've had this conversation before. So we know that this is a state required course. Everything about it is mandated as approved by the State Board of Ed and created by CIRC. Right now, it's open to 11 and 12, and that's what CIRC passed, and that's what the State Board of Education passed. You're opening it now to grade 10. So are you saying that we have flexibility to do that? Because if we have flexibility to do that, do we have flexibility in other ways as well?
To my knowledge, we do have the flexibility to do that.
Okay.
I'll double check that, but my understanding is yes.
Okay, because when they adopted it, the synthesis for the program of studies was a part of that approval process. And look, we've been here before in terms of being strict in statute and then wanting to do flexibilities and you can't. So I would just ask, because right now it is 11 and 12 and that's what it is. And just wanting to make sure that we've checked on that. Okay. Here, the humanities class. And some of us who have been here around for a while and we've had conversations, wow, we don't have an ethics or philosophy class. How great would it be if we had an ethics / and then I'm reading through the humanities document and that's our ethics and philosophies class. Was there any, it doesn't, when you read like a program of studies or the title and it just says humanities, it doesn't scream that this is basically our ethics and philosophies class. Was there any conversation in terms of that title? In terms of humanities, ethics, and philosophy, or something that made it appear that that's what this class is?
That's a great question. So we did talk about that. We decided to keep the title the same. We thought that would be, we were afraid if some students saw philosophy, they would actually be intimidated by it. So what we have decided to do, and this is a conversation in general about how we better market our classes so that students know exactly what it is we are going to develop a standardized student handout or PowerPoint that all teachers are going to develop that really delves into what these classes actually are, so that a student might, be attracted to ethics or philosophy, might realize that that's what that class actually is.
I mean, anyone who's on like a law track or anything, any of these things, I mean, there's just, that class is really awesome and it just doesn't scream in the title all that it is. It was just some feedback. And
that's something that we could talk about again
too.
too.
I mean, maybe that's just my lens because many of us have had this conversation before around ethics and philosophy. And I don't know, it was something that jumped out at me. I assume the sociology class is staying ECC?
Yes.
Okay. The AP comparative, page 35, fourth, okay, so I'm getting really specific here. In the AP comparative class, when you're in the Nigeria unit, there was one of the bullet points in there that reverted back to Mexico.
Oh,
So
okay, we
I
can
just,
fix
and
that.
that's on page 35.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth bullet point on that page. So I was wondering, is that meant to say Nigeria and not Mexico? So just,
Can you read it to me? It might
I'd
be
have
a
to pull it up.
comparison. It's okay. I'll double
I
check
mean, I
it.
have it. I can do it. I don't want to take.
That's okay.
Okay.
We'll double check it.
All right. The AP European History class. Is it AP Modern European or is it AP European?
So in College Board speak, it's AP European. AP Modern European is a Fairfieldization of that course. I don't know. We've just always called it AP MEH. But lately, it was a class that I taught. We just started to say AP Euro because students were confused when they'd be looking for resources online and AP Euro would pop up. So AP European History.
Okay. So we're getting rid of the modern, but on your chart here, it says modern.
I can amend that.
Okay, all right. We're getting, because the textbook is just European, no
Yes.
modern. So that was one of my comments. The AP Europe, okay, it's going to be hard to get rid of the modern. Prerequisite lists itself as a prerequisite.
We can fix that.
The 2295 AP US Gov textbook, the one the AP that is listed in the curriculum document, because there's two, but one of them is like 2295. It's in the curriculum document, but I didn't see it on the cost list.
It should be there. There's 3 of those. It's the AMSCO book. It's a review book.
All right.
So there should be 3. It's for Euro, AP US History, and AP US Gov.
They're all
I'll double
using
check it.
Okay. All right. And there's no text request for AP Psych.
We already have those because that was just recently approved.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure. All right. Mrs. Maxon Canelli, those are my edits. So I have other broader things if you want me to stop there on the docs or keep going.
I think at this point, it would be incredibly helpful for, I noticed it looked like it's handwritten, not typed, your comments. You know, I don't know if you want to make a copy and hand those edits over. I think that would be incredibly helpful. I know that they appreciate the edits, but I would love to hear the bigger, broader questions at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Mrs. Jacobson, what was your question regarding the Black and Latino Studies course?
So
If it can be 10th grade.
if it can,
It
right.
could be 9, 10, 11, or 12, according to state statute.
Okay, so no, the CERT course as approved by the State Board of
The
Ed.
third course, but the statute reads it has to be offered
Okay.
through 9 through 12.
All right, it's just, all right. All right, moving on to some of the bigger questions. I don't know where to begin with this. The input form that the Board of Ed had provided input on back in 2024. One of my main issues was grade spans and how certain grades have very little offering and some of these grades, I mean, if we look at this chart in 11th grade, the most options are available to our 11th grade students in the 1 year that you're making them take the 1 graduation requirement.
For the rest of the board, I believe that this is referencing enclosure 1F.
Yeah, page 16. The presentation with the list. So if we just look at this chart, just visually.
So, do you want to, can I answer? Okay.
Yeah.
So the chart does look long because that's when those courses open to juniors. The civics courses and AP Psych are the only additional courses that are open to juniors that are not open to sophomores as well and seniors. Most of our students just take US history their junior year in some iteration. That's what they have to take. And they take a civics course with it, or many of them take civics in 12th grade. We wanted to keep civics 11 and 12 because that is closer to when students are voting. We just felt that that was important so that that knowledge is most familiar to them. For AP Psych, which is the only other course that's restrictive juniors and seniors, That certainly is something that we can discuss again, but the AP Psych teachers felt that it was important to keep that course to 11 and 12 because of some of the content.
Yep.
But that's really why.
Okay. I'll just name a couple. The AP Human Geography class per College Board, that is really a ninth grade course. So is there a reason why we didn't at least offer that in ninth grade?
That was part of the discussion that we had at the department meeting. We didn't want to only open up AP Human Geography without opening up other options for our non-AP students. We just felt from an equity lens, we would have to do both at the same time. We also felt that it would be a lot for a freshman to take a core social studies course and AP Human Geography at the same time. The reason we don't want AP Human Geography to supplant the ninth grade core course is AP Human Geography is amazing and it's incredibly accessible, which is why we want that course and we're adopting it. But it does not have the historical rigor that we believe is necessary in terms of establishing students' core history content knowledge. AP Human Geography, again, it's great, but it studies cultural patterns and human migration. It doesn't lean into primary sources or essay writing. The assessment for human geography is 3 FRQs that are essentially short answers where students are analyzing data sets or analyzing maps. Again, all great skills. If you look at the most recent AP Human Geography FRQ, it was looking at a map of pork production and milk production globally, and then having students draw conclusions about agricultural practices and cultural practices. Amazing. But we don't feel like that should supplant them learning about the Enlightenment or the Industrial Revolution or the World Wars. And we just didn't like the idea of opening AP to ninth grade, but not opening those other electives for our non-AP students.
Okay. Thank you for your rationale on that one. I found that probably would pair really nicely with some of our computer classes. Actually, that course is very heavy on the data analytics piece. So that was just a interdisciplinary thought that I had when I was reading it. So the one that I'm going to probably make a amendment on is U.S. history. More than half of Fairfield County districts make that class available to 10th graders. The answer on the sheet was that it would destroy American Studies just isn't accurate because you can still take it in 11th grade if you wanted to. It wasn't about moving it to 10th grade, but making it available to 10 through 12 or at least 10 through 11. We have all of these. You're adding a lot of classes. The economics of this situation is, in looking into our data, is that there's almost a 40% increase here in opportunities, but there isn't a 40% increase in students. And there isn't a 40% increase in time. Never mind all the other areas, art, business, and everything else, music, et cetera, that students want to take, auto, wood, whatever, fashion, et cetera. By making so much only available to 11 and 12, when they're already going to start being able to take the AP Psych and the AP, right, and the civics, they have to take that. The opportunity here is to open up some of this a little bit more to the younger grades. And if you're not going to take American Studies, which a lot of our kids don't take American Studies, then there's no reason why they couldn't take U.S. history in 10th grade. And I know that because all over the state, people take U.S. history in 10th grade.
We did discuss that at length as part of our preliminary process. The American Studies was a sticking point for us. One of the things that we talked about, because we also talked about, like, could we open up U.S. history to be the choice of the student?
Mm-hmm.
And because we do course selection so early, we thought that is an incredible decision to make as a ninth grader in January, whether you're on the track to take AP American Studies. I had a lot of students, I taught sophomores primarily as my teaching assignment. I had a lot of students who came into sophomore year not ready, but by the time they left, they were able to take it. So we just thought that that really forces that decision upon students very early, which was our rationale.
All right, but it's not the same for AP Modern European. to force that same decision.
AP Modern European is less rigorous than AP US History, significantly.
But I'm not even
so.
talking about just a push. I'm talking about just regular US history. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and you could take US history, honors or college prep, and then take a push, just like you take regular chemistry and then you take AP
Mhm.
chemistry. So that could be an option too for someone.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's a bit of a sticking point for me. The other piece that I want to talk about is, and then I'll be done, guys, and you guys can move on, is in the, several of us put assured experiences into our sheet as a priority for this board. And having just come back from a very large conference where the message all weekend long was get them out of the classroom, I wasn't really satisfied with the answer. So what I'm going to ask is, in your implementation guides right now for social studies, what are the assured experiences by grade that are in the implementation guides today?
We have 3rd grade field trip, 5th grade field trip, 7th grade guest speaker.
3rd grade to where?
Fairfield Museum.
So
5th
all
grade-
3rd graders
Mhm.
go to the Fairfield
Yes.
Museum. Okay. 5th grade,
Fairfield Museum.
the same place?
Mm-hmm. It's a different field trip. It's different. They have a different experience there, but they're going to the same place.
Speaker in 7th
Mm-hmm.
is what?
John Dow.
Okay. So no Sturbridge, no 9/11 Memorial, no Indigenous people experiences.
They're not currently written into our implementation guide. Many teachers design field trips, but they're not necessarily assured. One of the reasons for that is we have to pay for them if they're short experiences. So I knew that this was something that you wanted. So we looked back at the DC trip. The last time the DC trip ran, actually, Kate planned it for Roger Ludlow. We looked at the cost and it was $130,000 for RLMS to go in 2014. So at $400,000 for all 3 middle schools in 2014 prices. I can't even imagine what that would be in 2025 prices. I just didn't think that I could come and ask for $1 million in textbooks and $600,000 in a DC
For that,
trip.
yeah. Not saying that was it. So so the answer on the sheet said they will be in the implementation guide. So in your conversations, what experiences are you looking at, just keeping that the same, or?
We're going to be looking into Sturbridge. We're going to be looking into other opportunities. We have to take into consideration financial, logistics, new nursing regulations that.
Well, the financial's up to us, and and then to make that case, should we get with the other boards, right? If it's something that's important to us, that's really up to us. Do we have and this might be a question for Dr. Zavajanzik. Do you have an inventory by building, by grade, of what's being done, either district sponsored per se or PTA sponsored? So in other words, Burke, K through 5, district, PTA, Dwight, K through 5, and then all the way through 12. Do we have an inventory like that so that we know what, because I know a lot of PTAs do things too, right? I mean, I'm not interested if they're going to quasi. I'm just interested in knowing the things that pertain to social studies, like who is going to Sturbridge and who's not, and who's bringing in some performances or what it might be. Do we have that information at hand?
We know, yes, we know where every grade goes
You
based
do.
on a field trip form.
Could we get that?
It would take some time to collect, but we can begin collecting
But
that.
you said you have it.
Yeah, I don't have it in a form to give you in a report. I'd have to download it all and sort it out.
Oh, okay.
It's just not a simple click to
Okay,
send you
sorry.
tomorrow,
I
but
thought
we
you
can
said
get
we
it.
had it. All right,
Yeah.
at some point. I think that would be interesting. This is something that I know you said you didn't want to put in the curriculum documents, but this is a really, really, there are some grades. I mean, I'm not particularly a mushy person, but I mean, literally when I finished grade 8, I was like, I cried at that class. I mean, you went from 1750 to 9/11 in AI. I mean, it was 8th grade. I mean, they're all beautiful. Don't get me wrong. There's just some really, really important points in some of these grades. And when I'm reading them, like, that pairs so well with going to do this. And it could be that it's just going to the Fairfield Museum, or it's going to the Greenfield Hill Cemetery, where the most Revolutionary War soldiers are at rest in the country. There are things right in our community. I'm not necessarily saying DC or that it has to be that big, but you know, Sturbridge is awesome. The 9/11 memorial trip was amazing. I chaperoned it. You know, there are things that used to be happening here that have gotten lost. So I want to hear your recommendations and like if it wasn't a cost thing, at what points, um, what would be your standouts? Because I'm willing to hear those recommendations because I am actually probably going to bring forward to the board some furthering this discussion in terms of actually making it an assured experience. And I'm not saying every grade, not saying, right, but where you really think those touch points are. We used to do something at Sherman with Indigenous peoples. It was an amazing day. I don't know if anyone else did that. But it paired really nicely with that unit in the elementary school. So just food for thought. I want to see do we know what we're doing? What do you think would be hold the most value and worth the time and the cost that would bring some of this to life? You know, the art history class. Are they going to go to the Met? Are they going to go? I mean, maybe it's not the Met. Maybe it's a different one. But you know what I'm saying? Some of these. Just I think it's important for them to live it a little bit more than going on a digital resource. Or looking at it on their screens and being able to touch, see, and feel some of these things. So thank you. But other than that, thank you so much for this work. It was incredible. And I took the time to really read it and I'm looking forward to follow up. So thank you, so much. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Mr. Lee.
Couple quick questions. You said that the class of 2025 are taking more social history, social studies type classes for graduate. What is the reason for that? What's driving that at the next level that these kids have to take more this year or in the past?
It's demand. It's what they want and what they're signing up for. The classes that are really high interest for them, they're signing up for. So we're only requiring them to take 3.5, but many students take more than that.
And that's for their own
Yes.
knowledge, not necessarily that the schools
Yes.
are asking for.
Correct.
We're not saying that the class of 2025 took more than others. That's the one we analyzed.
Right.
We think all of them are probably taking a similar amount
Yes.
with that.
Okay. So as we look forward, because that's the ultimate end game, are kids leaving this school district when they graduate based on potentially a new curriculum are going to be better? It sounds like they'll be better prepared than some other kids when they get to that next level because of the stuff they did here. And these high school kids are better prepared because of what they did in middle school. And then we bring it down there, they're better prepared because what they're learning in elementary school, we're just getting them revved up a little quicker and a little differently.
Absolutely.
Okay. And to go on Mrs. Jacobson's field trip kind of things, if money is a concern, right, things can be swapped out, I'm assuming, instead of 9/11, Sherwood Island Memorial, right? And even things here in town too can suffice as much, right? There's still a lot of teaching opportunities there also. Okay.
Hey, Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I got a question about how it went over the weekend and I shared, think I cried 3 times. I won't say which grades, but it really was just extraordinary and beautiful work. I'll reiterate just the desire for the assured experience, not to be prescriptive, but as someone who was a PTA leader past this, I think that it may be helpful the way that I kind of as I was thinking about it, reading the documents, and I went back and read and watched the presentation from 2013, which was also beautiful. It's crazy to see the linearness of it, is maybe even just a memo of direction. I think that we kind of over consider norms sometimes and don't think that maybe just things happen forever and no one questions why. And maybe if we could get some more communication going between our principals and our PTA leaders and not prescribe what trips, but just say these are options. And that, to Ms. Jacobson's point, there are certain things that I think should be insured, but also I think that there's a plethora of support for our schools and our curriculum work, and I think that we could expand. In looking at those implementation guides, there's a lot of work with the Fairfield Museum in prior years. Is that continuing right now? Do you guys feel like you are working collaboratively? Do you need that support? I know that we've always heard it's such a leg of our social studies department. I'm just curious your insight and if those 3rd and 5th grade trips you see continuing and being a good continued partnership.
We do see them continuing. We are looking at retooling them to make them more responsive to this new curriculum. We're also looking at some other options for 3rd grade, bringing in groups actually to the school to engage students in more hands-on activities. So we are exploring other options. We do love working with the Fairfield Museum. It's a great resource for us, but we do want to retool some of the trip details.
As I see you having a resource, I was just curious kind of that collaboration and that
Yes.
intersection. Like I said, we kind of live in the footsteps of a lot of our founding fathers. So I think it's been a tremendous stakeholder resource for us, but also kind of seeing where we go from here. In terms of that resource for K through 5, those are all physical copies. Does that come with any digital resources?
It does. It comes with both.
Is
in
that only for
cost.
staff or for
It's for
students?
students as well.
How do you envision that being used for students in K through 5? Do you envision that it's mostly going to be those hard copy
Yes.
pieces and that the
digital is for support.
For support.
So I envision it mostly being the hard copy resources. I do envision for students who might need some accommodation or some translation, that to be pushed out to them via Google Classroom, but I mostly envision it with the hands-on manipulatives.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Just a few more questions. Anyway, a sneak peek of that grade 2 and 4 interdisciplinary for science and social studies. You kept throwing it out there in the document. I was like, what is it? What's the unit? What is it?
So there's a lot, especially in grade 2 and grade 4, about human environment interaction and the way that humans have adapted and modified their environment, which is complemented with an open SciEd unit on the impact of humans on the environment. So it's building out from there.
Thank you for the preview. And same thing for the Civic Action Project. I thought that was I don't even know if that was on the sheet, but when you were talking about it, I got excited myself. Is that also in the implementation? Like, how do you see that kind of filling out as a part of the program?
So we're sort of playing with it right now, trying to sort of figure out what this might look like. So some of the PLT work is being directed towards that, because we don't want to make it too big. We want to make sure that it's accessible for all kids. So even finding for students to even find opportunities within their school itself to develop these action plans. And so they are starting now, and that would culminate in their final exam kind of situation. So we're going to see how it works, because we'd love to get community support in that, administrative support, to see what resources are out there to help kids, like even give them some options if they're having trouble thinking about what they might like to do their civic action project on. So we're playing with it right now.
I love that. Thank you very much. And then just one question. Obviously, we see a lot of digital resources being purchased for our secondary students. I really appreciated your comments about the lengthy reading and not wanting that done on Chromebooks and devices. And I think that is a direction that we're going to be heading. Do you think that this purchase for these, especially in those core courses that you're anything that are required courses, do you feel like that's sufficient enough?
Print only?
Print only.
As I said, I prefer a print book. As a classroom teacher, I always just gave out the book, and then I would kind of like hold the code until I was asked. But I did find that I was often asked, particularly around student travel and students moving between various households. It was really an asset. And then as I had to accommodate for students, there are a lot of students that require the textbook to be read to them or them to have some level of modification. Really, that comes through the online platform.
But you feel like this is sufficient to support the students who didn't want to read on a digital?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Barnwarper?
Hi, thank you all, first of all. This was amazing reading through the curriculum, so many amazing courses. Just going to pretty much reiterate a lot that's already been said. First, I really just wanted to say I loved the text bind in middle school. I've seen it in action. It's phenomenal. And really excited that that's going to be continuing through 7th and 8th grade. Regarding U.S. history, reading through the documents, that really was my favorite course. I mean, that 11th grade course was just beautifully written, and there was just so much good information in it. I do share Miss Jacobson's concerns about it being offered in 11th grade, and I did read the documents that where there was previous discussion, and listen to what you guys had to say. And while I do understand the rationale, I just wanted to say I would definitely support moving it and would like be interested in seeing if there was a way to do that. Um, Also, just when Miss Jacobson brought up the humanities title, that struck me because I had the same response when I read it in the document previously, like 25 years ago. When I took humanities, it was actually like more like Western Civ. So I was like, oh, I was kind of expecting that, and then I started reading it, and I was like, oh, this is a different course. So I think that was valuable feedback. And again, with the textbooks, I just want to make sure that we are purchasing enough that every child who wants to take a physical book home can, because I really just think having that book is so important in social studies and really across all of our courses. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. O'Neill.
Hi. I also want to thank everyone who had a part in this curriculum. I have been on curriculum committees in the past, and I know the long afternoons that come after a long day of teaching. So thank you to everyone. I was also extremely impressed with the entire curriculum. What stood out to me was the inclusivity of it all. When I looked at the different historical figures that would be studied, to see that there were so many women and people of color and Native Americans, I was very impressed. And also, a number of people have mentioned the US history courses. I loved the 8th grade US history, that it went all the way to modern day and there was a contemporary history unit. I personally, that stood out to me because I feel like so often that it just doesn't get done in the course of a year. I just had one question back to the elementary school resources. I know my kids in elementary school often bring home the weekly readers. This, from what you've said, I'm gathering is much more focused
Yes.
on social studies and primary sources.
So currently, it's kind of a school by school thing. Some schools or PTAs purchase Scholastic News. It's not across the district.
Oh,
so this would be across all K-5 classrooms district wide.
Okay, great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Hey, Mrs. Jacobson?
Quick few follow-ups. And I'm not sure who to ask this question to. It's on the textbooks and the 6-year and 8-year renewals. The cost that we were given was the 1-year implementation. So a textbook, some of your textbooks are almost 20 years old. You get the book, you can use it for as much time as we have. The renewal, the online is only for 6 or 8 years. So the cost does not include up to 2 times renewals of those licenses. Right? So do we have an estimate on the actual total cost over this 10-year period, knowing that, of course, that 6-year renewal might not be $179 in 6 years, it might be something different, but just to point out that the cost doesn't include the renewals of the online through at least 1, if not 2 cycles.
We've not included them for that very reason. We don't know what the uptick would be in 6
It's
years.
going to be probably more, but yeah.
3% a year. Who knows how to predict it? Sometimes the company doesn't offer 6 years anymore. We only need 3. We have to do 2 2-year cycles depending on their price point. So it's really hard to make a prediction today on that and to put it out there what it would cost and to be held to that. So that's why we generally just give the companies greatest amount, which is usually 6 or 8 years. And frequently you'll see in the budget presentation that I'll write in that it's a gap year. Science was in it last year. Social studies was in it as well. That you see on the
And why is it, just so people don't understand, why if you buy the online, if you buy the hard book and you buy the online, why isn't it just forever as well?
It's how they make their money.
Thank you. Okay. There was a comment, circle back to a comment that was made that you weren't anticipating an FTE impact at this time. If you're adding such a great number of classes, what I hear in that from an FTE perspective is that you're expecting lower enrollment in the other offerings.
It could be that. It could be, we're going to propose these courses. We don't know what the student interest is going to be or how this is going to shake out enrollment in our existing electives. We really think we need a year to let it settle and kind of evaluate where we are. We also talked about perhaps rotating our offerings. So offering a certain set of the electives in the first semester and a second set in the second semester to try to, stabilize really teaching schedules. And so students can anticipate like when certain things can fit in their schedule.
Okay. I asked this question in 24 and there wasn't an answer. And what I asked is, are you building this curriculum around the current elementary schedule 40-minute block, or are you going to change the time based on the curriculum? And the answer at that time was TBD. In our backup, it has been answered that you are fitting these curriculums at the elementary level within the 40-minute time span that rotates with science, right?
That is currently accurate, yes.
Okay. Just for the record, we're making a big investment. It's a beautiful job. I want it to be implemented. This time is locked.
I didn't say that.
Is it going to be locked?
I can't predict that.
What do you mean by is
Meaning,
this time locked?
Meaning there have been in the past where science and social studies kind of gets, pushed off of ELA. So when I say this is a large investment, and is the time block going to be locked?
So we are looking at elementary schedule. We've had several meetings with a committee of folks. Regardless if we stay with the current 6-day rotation or move to a 5-day cycle for the elementary schedule, science and social studies will be given dedicated lock time that will be non-negotiable.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Just wanted to make sure that was the case. Thank you very much.
And that is, again, that was the charge that I was not at the last committee meeting, but at the others. And that's been the focus, that social studies and science will get their time just like ELA and math do. We can't make those push-offs like you've talked about, and then stress the importance of those two curricular areas of content, which are extremely valuable to all our students. It will, if it has to, it'll come at the expense of something else, but we are not going to just allow kids to not have the full experience in social studies and science.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, my turn. I'm going to try to move quickly. I do want to start actually though by coming back to Mr. Krasnov's kickoff point, which is I do love the process and what went into this, and the repetition and the spiraling that's what's going to enrich this background knowledge, is the process that you've baked into this. And I just wanted to say how excited I was to read that and recognize how hot off the presses this was as a process, that you were still working on it just 3 weeks ago on election day. So appreciate all the work that staff did, and to everyone who's here tonight. I'm now trying to delete some of my questions. Just to reiterate Mrs. Flynn's point, the online really should be for the K through 5. We shouldn't anticipate hearing that anybody in the regular school day is using the online part unless it's for those specific accommodations or language assistance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the library units that you referenced, those I assume will be staggered over the course of the year, where you have that interdisciplinary
Yes.
research work?
Yes.
Okay. Easy with yes and no answers. Love the addition of AP Human Geography, by the way. I am curious though, because obviously I think a few of us have touched on the concern about the enrollment in the courses. And these courses, you referenced a survey. Were these actually the specific titles or areas of focus that were unearthed in that survey?
So we gave general categories and parameters, like, would you like a course about social justice? Would you like a course about, we did put sports history on there. Would you like a course, for example, one of them that scored particularly high, no surprise, was films, history movies. And we made the executive decision, no, not to move forward with that one. So we gave general categories for students, and then we kind of planned these courses based on we saw high areas of interest.
Okay, so hopefully we've got some buy-in there. Just curious though, that you do feel comfortable that with this sequencing that you have established the background knowledge in order to be able to access these
Yes.
electives at the point where they are offered?
Yes.
Again, yes or no. All right. The AP, and I'm going to keep calling it AP Modern Euro as well, only a 10th grade option?
It could be 10th, 11th, or 12th, but it can be the 10th core course option if a student chooses to take
You're
it
right.
as
I
regional
didn't see it down
studies.
at the bottom of the list. Thank you. Right,
Mhm.
listed as the core. Thank you. Um, Again, trying to eliminate the humanities course. Also, your biggest asset for that were counselors. 2 out of my 3 children took that, not even on their radar. They literally just had an opening on the schedule, and the counselor said, "You're going to love this," and it was an
Mhm.
amazing experience. In that case, the title wouldn't have mattered either, though not that I don't agree that it couldn't be tweaked. But that just makes me wonder, what is and I don't know if Dr. Hatzis can speak better to this, or if all of you can, the process whereby you're talking about making a slideshow
Mhm.
for the students, using it in the classes, but what are you doing to educate the counselors?
I will be meeting with both Mr. Brown and Ms. Bontorsi, as well as the counseling staff, once this is approved, to go through the new course offerings, make sure they understand the new scope and sequence, and describe all of the new courses to them.
Okay, because that's definitely one of your best assets for,
Yes.
and I'm not trying to pit you against other
Mhm.
departments, but in terms of getting this interest. Speaking of the counselors, for the notion of the assured experience, because that was also a question I had submitted and was keenly interested. I had never thought of the component that an actual assured experience is something that the district has to pay for. Didn't know that.
Mhm.
But what about the idea of mandating a trip and you as a department come up with a list of these are the ones that would be appropriate based on the
Mhm.
curriculum of this year? And that, I mean, I'm just trying to at
Mhm.
least come up with something, because I couldn't agree more that having, whether they're coming in because there are some great experiences, although again, I don't think quite what we're looking for is just someone who's going to talk at the kids, but to be doing something. But maybe that could be something at least to consider,
Mhm.
is coming up with a menu of options and you're expected to do something.
And those do exist. When I was thinking about field trips and assured experiences as part of this curriculum, I was really thinking about like, this is what we have to pay for. This is written into the document, but there are traditional field trips that take place. So, for example, AP European History, those classes typically go to the Met. AP Lit typically goes to the MoMA. At Ward, American Studies typically goes to Newport. At Ludlow, American Studies typically goes to New York City, and they do some sort of scavenger hunt, or they go to Salem or 9/11 Memorial. Like, there are traditions that do exist. They're just student funded. It's not something that the district pays for.
Right. My concern, of course, which would be the concern of anybody on the board, would be that I know how much those are driven by the staff members who are
Mhm.
teaching them. They retire tomorrow, new staff comes in. I would hate for certain things to fall away.
Mhm.
If the teachers make the argument that these are of value, but again, I'm trying to figure out the balance of wanting them out there and understanding that there is such a thing as that could be too much for the district to take on at any particular time. So,
Mhm.
okay. So anything else I will plan on submitting? I just want to remind, well, let me pause for a moment. Are there any final questions? Okay, sure, Mrs. Jacobson?
I'm just hopeful for some of the follow-up information, the list of that. And did you want me to submit what I had in
Yes,
writing?
please.
Okay, the edits. Okay, so I assume that those will come back as a red line with any changes on this. And then for amendments, if anyone's doing amendments to anything, which I plan to do a couple. I will be sure to get that to the board members in well advance of the next meeting so that everyone can have it in writing what at least, and if anyone else is planning on doing so, if you could also do the same. So that's just my only thing on that.
And just as a suggestion, I think those language edits that you have, or the corrections and the inconsistencies, if that can just go directly to Dr. Zavajanzik, But for the content questions on the document as a whole, I hope everybody saw in your board email that we do have a doc from sent by Dr. Zavajanzik in order for you to submit your questions with a deadline of December 5th.
Yeah, that'll get us some turnaround time to get it to before the vote on the following Tuesday.
And obviously, okay, this is the height of hypocrisy, I acknowledge that, but if you can get them submitted early so that they can do them on a rolling basis as opposed to hitting send on December 5th, that would be great. And also, if anybody should choose, now that we've actually had the presentation, to see the textbooks, at this point now, they should be in touch with you.
Yep, they are still available in our offices.
Okay, all right, any final questions? Well, needless to say, thank you so much. I don't know if I think all of us could have guessed this was going to take this long. I'm not sure if you did, but thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for everybody who came as well. And we're moving on to presentation number 2. I know business is psyched to come next. So moving on to agenda item 5C, presentation and first reading of business department curriculum and textbooks.
Thank you again for the time this evening. I'm here with our curriculum liaison for our business department, which is 912. And you may remember just a few short years ago, we were here with a curriculum review for the business department for all of the courses. When we work on implementation, which we don't give out to the public or publish anywhere, we always come across some things that perhaps need some changes. And some of them we could do on our own, and others require changes to the documents that have been approved. So before you tonight are 4 courses that Ms. McEwen will go through, 3 of which we're trying to integrate a textbook as a direct resource to the course. All 4 actually do that, but one of them did require some changes to the actual content, structure, and sequence of the course as well, which is the introduction to the business class that we're bringing forward for you to review and hopefully approve.
Good evening. I'm Debbie McGuigan. I'm the business department liaison, and I'm also a teacher at Fairfield Ludlow High School. So we, as we've mentioned, we did come for curriculum review in 2022, and at that time for our Intro to Business book, we didn't feel there was a resource available that met the needs of our current curriculum, so we didn't propose a new textbook at that time. We now are finding that our 2008 textbook is very outdated, and we have now located through attending some conferences and our DECA and our FBLA conferences, we found a textbook that we feel does meet our requirement. Additionally, now that we have our Intro to Business course meeting the financial literacy requirement from the state of Connecticut, we felt it was a good opportunity for us to make modifications to the curriculum to highlight that into its own unit. It was embedded in our Intro to Business curriculum before, so we thought this was an opportunity to carve it out. And then for international business, we were previously using a supplemental resource, and we are finding that we're using it more with the students. So this is a book that we currently own, and we would like to request approval to be able to use it directly with the students as opposed to just an instructional resource. And then for AP Micro Macroeconomics, in 2023, we adopted a new textbook, and the new textbook came with an online resource for study guide, but it is not meeting the needs of our students. We had, with our old version of the textbook, we had a hard copy study guide, which really allowed the students to get additional practice with FRQs and multiple choice questions. So we are requesting to be able to use a supplemental book that we have in our classroom. Again, was used as an instructional resource, AMSCO textbook, so that the students have available to them additional review materials. And then I was going to walk you through our introduction to business, our revision, and what we changed from our 2022 approval to our 2025 proposed curriculum updates. The I will walk through specifics on the next couple of slides, but our main thing to highlight here is that we rearranged some of the content to have it flow better logically for our students. It wasn't designed towards the textbook. It was designed that it made more sense as we walk through the curriculum for us to build with the economy and how it impacts you. And then going into how are different businesses structured, how is an entrepreneurship different than a corporation and a partnership, and then what does that mean from a global impact? And then we then talk to the students about how to prepare for the future. So helping them build out a resume, discussing with them how to apply for their first job, explaining to them what is going to happen now with an online type application and their digital footprint and how that could impact them from their future job. And then we move into financial literacy, how students are making decisions to go to college, how applying and getting that first solicitation for a credit card as they're starting to apply for college, how they can make those decisions. And then the final unit for Unit 6 is a marketing unit where everything gets pulled together. So our main focus here was that the financial literacy we pulled out to put into its own unit, as I mentioned. We also had some units in the prior curriculum that were a little heavier, 12 weeks, 10 weeks on average. And now we have streamlined that where our first 3 units are 8 weeks and then the last 3 are 4 weeks. So for Unit 1, the only thing that was adjusted here was we added ethics and social responsibility. Ethics, of course, is discussed through the whole course, but we felt that we should identify that and have it specifically talked about in one particular unit, especially around companies' social responsibility, as that has been a much bigger focus now than our 2008 textbook had reflected. For Unit 2, this was our old Unit 3, so we just changed the order and made some minor modifications. We were discussing the types of business ownership and how the government regulates those businesses and what that means for us as a U.S. business and what that means if we were to do some business overseas. We will layer in here the tariffs and the different things going on in our economy right now. And then Unit 3 was our old Unit 2. We felt that this was better to talk about after we gave them an introduction of a business and the global economy. And we expanded this to look at business plan development, different leadership styles and management styles, and how companies hire the people that they do, what they're looking for, how they make their business decisions, how they profit and decide what they're going to focus on. And then Unit 4, preparing for the future. This was Unit 5, and this is where we had some financial literacy content, and we carved that out and moved that into its own unit in Unit 5. What we're focusing on here is helping the students plan for their future. This is where they are building their first resume. They are understanding the distinction between savings and bankings and investment, what the impact of the Federal Reserve has on us, and their overall financial well-being. So that was, I'm sorry, in Unit 4, and we carved that out to be its own unit into Unit 5. So Unit 4 is going to be their resume and applying for the job, and then it leads into, now that you have a resume and you're going to be getting your first job, what are the type of financial decisions you are going to need to make? The first one usually being that as they're applying for college, they start to get those first credit card solicitations coming home. And then we end it with Unit 6 for marketing, where this was our old Unit 4, and we didn't make any changes to this. We just felt marketing was better to be at the end to kind of wrap everything up. And then this book is a new book that we are requesting. We feel that this is a better reflection for different things that are going on in the business world. Our old textbook was before smartphones, before AI before a lot of the interaction. So we have a lot of examples that are talking to VCRs and CDs, and the students are like, I don't know what this is. What do you mean? You know, a VCR repairman. We're like, they're no longer. And they're like, we don't even know what a VCR is. So this book, we feel also has a lot of hands-on activities for them as they're exploring for careers, especially as they're getting ready for college. They may not know what they want to major in or where they want to be down the road. And this is really to help them know that it's okay if you're going into college and you're not quite sure exactly what you want to be. So this book, we're requesting about 300 textbooks, and the total cost would be about $46,000. For international business, this is a book that we are using as an instructional resource, but we are finding the students would like to have the textbook. So there's a little bit more reliance on the textbook. Although this is a textbook from 2011, we own this textbook and it's foundational. And with international, we tend to bring in a lot of world experience of what's going on in the world. So we're relying more on this textbook just for foundation. So we don't feel we need to request a new textbook for this. We would just like approval to use it for students. And then for AP Micro, we have new textbooks that we got in 2023. It is a hard copy as well as a digital. So we do see the benefits, as Ms. Sousa was pointing out, for our students to have access to both. What they were missing is a study guide that they could work through with the questions and the multiple choice. And this AMSCO book is very concise. Again, it was a instructional resource that we had in our classroom, and we would like approval to be able to use these directly with the students. So that's for micro and macro as well.
Okay, questions from the board? Ms. Rinaldi?
Thank you so much for this. I love the section on financial literacy. I just want to confirm that there are sections in this program around budgeting. I know you mentioned credit cards, also payroll deductions. I just want to
Yes.
okay.
So
just something-
budgeting and the payroll deductions, and I think I mentioned that at the curriculum committee
Yes.
meeting around the students, especially when they get that first paycheck, do not
Yes.
understand why it's not their hourly rate times the hours. And, you know,
Yes.
they're like,
still
what's
don't understand
FICA?
it.
They still,
No,
yeah.
and like
What
as
is
a-
this?
Yeah,
So
working, that's something really,
we
yes.
do discuss that, as well as looking at a tax return, a basic tax return, and how they go
Amazing.
about doing that. So
So-
that is touched upon as well.
No, as a working parent and, you know, a big part of the community. Thank you so much. That's very helpful and
Okay.
important.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, going off Mrs. Rinaldi, I'm happy you're making that change. My daughter took financial literacy in high school, and I remember her saying, you know, all these things about the VCR and CDs and stuff,
Yep.
and you guys showing her how to write a check, and she's like, well, what's writing a check? So my question, I guess, now is, as we're teaching this next generation of kids how to do financial literacy, are we showing them, like in today's day and age, all they do is everything's off an app, right?
Yeah.
And no one writes a check. It's easy to online pay but it's very easy to forget how much you have in the bank and think it's non-standing. Are we teaching that kind of responsibility?
We are. I just had this discussion. I teach accounting, and I did just show them how to write a check in this past unit, and the importance of the endorsement on the back and for the safety. And we addressed that no one really writes a check anymore, and that you usually get a direct deposit, and behind the scenes there is someone that, you know, is doing it or having a control in place. So then we transition to, let's talk about the app that you're using to upload this, or when you go and you're Venmoing someone, are you keeping track of that money coming out? And most of them told me no. the statement tells them, or like they just look to see. So there is a reliance that there is no error. And we showed them a clip from Everybody Loves Raymond type clip of, they're like, what is this ancient show? But it showed that if you don't keep track of what's in your checking account, you can get overdraft fees and it could cost you more money in the long run. So yes, we are adapting to show them based on how things are done today, more so than a writing of a check.
Because I think a lot of it, as we laugh about it, right, it's a lot more on hands actual world experience. Like you're right, my daughter got 3 credit card applications. 3. The words were pre-approved. It's free.
Yeah.
And something like, you get 20,000 points, you can go to Mexico kind of thing.
For free.
Right, for free.
Yeah.
But what I pointed out was, did you see how high your interest rate? So if you spend $1 and you don't pay it right away, look how high look what you're actually paying. So I think a lot of that has to be hands-on, real-world situations kind of thing. So I'm glad I'm very happy with the upgrade on the textbook at least.
Mr. Krasnov.
Thank you. Thank you again. Obviously, you came and met with our curriculum committee and gave us a very detailed presentation. One thing that I did not point out at the time is changes like this, I think are important. I know we have a set schedule and, everyone should try to stay to that schedule, but when a curriculum needs to change, the curriculum needs to change. And if you feel it needs to change, I can speak for myself. I would love to see someone come forward with the changes instead of waiting and saying, oh, we need to wait 10 years to change it. In terms of the VCR, maybe the film history class. That was one of my favorite classes in high school, actually. But again, thank you for these changes. I'm in full support.
Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you very much. As someone who just showed her 13-year-old the credit card machine that we used to use from the 1900s, I appreciate you helping us parents aid. I'll echo the financial literacy. Kind of piggybacking on Mr. Lee's point, is there anything I went through the curriculum documents. I didn't see anything directly related to like technology, just kind of articulating, when you spent a credit card, it did used to take that and it got mailed and all things. But I know a lot of our kids are like, oh, I pay with this. And I'm just curious how that gets incorporated and how you see that moving over the next 5 years, 10 years. And Ms. Souza made a recommendation to us before, and I take Mr. Krasnov's point very well as well. Thank you for coming to us. Thank you for acknowledging that you need this change. And is there anything else you see coming in the next 5 years that makes you think that 10 years might not be the best? We kind of have this calendar, and it's very, I would say, idealistic and optimistic, but also, there's the reality of the world. So I'd love to hear your perspective.
So as far as technology, we tell the students how things used to be and how they've evolved so that they can understand how things used to be done, and how they have progressed and the dangers with some of that. Especially with how easily you can access money and how easily you can spend it and how there isn't really that paper trail. So to make sure that they're accountable for that. As far as the 10 years can be long, particularly for business courses, because so much changes around us. Having said that, some of our courses, I also teach accounting, and that is pretty set. So I wouldn't see us having to make a change for a curriculum for something like that. It would be more of international type curriculum, perhaps, or intro. We should be set for now. But and marketing, same type of thing. Some of our examples are a little dated, but we have enough that we bring in from the outside world. They're getting the foundation from the textbook. But as we see that, we would certainly propose that.
Wonderful. Just something to note as we're kind of going through this process of looking at our curriculum committee, that this was something that came through there. And obviously, I just think it's important to note. I think it's always good to say when you say out loud something isn't working without being nervous to. I always think that's a sign of a good working organization. So thank you for modeling that.
I just wanted to clarify, and this is especially for our new board members, but actually everyone, that the issue regarding the international business textbook and the books that you're looking for micro and macro, that's because of a Board of Ed policy that once something is being approved as the district resource, it has to come before us, in case you're wondering why it was in there. I just wanted to reiterate that. I just had one question. The micro and macro AP book, that is not a workbook, correct?
It is not a work.
Okay, so that is something we're not gonna have to keep buying that every year.
No, we will not.
Okay, that was it for me. Mr. Asa.
Yeah, just one quick question. I'm assuming that this, pending our approval, is built into what you guys are working on in the budget build now.
That's accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Financial literacy.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so as I failed to say with the social studies, but just as a reminder that this will be on, unless we get reasons otherwise, this will be on as a voting item at our December 9th meeting. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar. I'd ask for a motion to approve the item listed in the consent calendar. Mr. Asa, seconded by Mr. Krasnov. Any questions or issues? Okay, all those in favor? It is unanimous, minus Mrs. Jacobson. So thank you. Next, moving on to agenda item number 7, old business, approval of the 2026-2027 student calendar option C. The recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the 2026-27 student calendar option C. Mr. Asa, seconded by Mr. Lee. And discussion. First, maybe, Mr. Testani, if you can just capture what the changes were made, because obviously we started with an A and a B. Then based on board discussion, Mr. Testani created for us option C. And if you could just, because obviously this is a item difficult to redline, what some of the key changes were.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all of them. So we did capture the start date that would be in compliance with the board policy that was last passed. So as you can see, that will have the orientation date will be August 31st with a school start date of September 1st. That's in line with the board policy. That then did kick us out to a end date of June 11th. That being said, if there's no snow days, which sure there'll be one, we would have graduation on June 10th. Rather than on the last day of school, June 11th, which we have done. We did that a couple of years ago, and it worked out fine. If not, we will have, if any inclement weather, it'll kick us out into the next week of June 14th. We removed the half day in January. I believe it was January 12th. We also removed the half day in May. I believe that was May 11th. So those are now full days. We have 2 half days in October rather than a day off for student conferences. They're both on Tuesdays because those are the longer teacher days contractually with after school meetings. So that will allow enough time. We will probably dismiss a little bit earlier than we currently do to make sure that teachers have enough time to schedule the conferences and also have a little bit of a break. And we did the same in March. And then everything else seems pretty much straightforward. As you can see, we eliminated as many half days in the schedule as we can. We did take into account not having and having school for the first time on Veterans Day, but as you heard from Mr. DeWitt, that is something that the veterans in town do support. So we think this is a pretty clean calendar as is, and hopefully we can get this settled tonight and move forward and publicize this as soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Asa.
Yeah, just one more thing, Mr. Testani. Thank you for adjusting the first 6 days to 5 days.
Yes, that was Meg catching
Yeah,
that, so
that was
credit Meg on that.
That is important because that does keep us in compliance with the policy at the end of the year as well. So I think we've done that in years past recently. So I'm perfectly content with those 5 days.
So good point. I just wanted to, because there's a policy, just so the public is aware that if we go beyond 5 snow days, we will start then taking from April break. That's the normal progression because of the board policy, unless the board at any point suspends the policy and wants to extend, then if it goes beyond 5 days, to go into June 21st. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I had just a couple. First, I was hoping you could speak to, because this will be our first time ever having 4 full days of PD and then having the orientation day. Normally it's, I think at one point it used to be 2, then it became 3. So this is the first time of 4 full days of PD. I was wondering if you could explain how you see the district using that.
So contractually, we give the teachers 1 full day to set up classrooms. That's more specifically, obviously, I think the elementary teachers usually come in early as well because they do have a lot more setup. But if we do, and the plan is to transition to Power School next school year as well, the transition year, that'll give us a day so that we can get some training done for teachers as we look to make that a transition finally from Infinite Campus to Power School. So that will be helpful as well. That will be an ask in this year's budget that's currently going to, that was removed last year, but we're adamant that we'd like to make that transition starting next year.
Okay, thank you. And then 2 other quick questions for October. I had been curious about moving one of either the 13th or the 20th to the 14th as the early release. This way the high schoolers are released and could assist with babysitting, but I didn't know if there was a reason that that would be a bad idea.
So that would just be something that we'd have to have a conversation with the FEA, and they would have to agree to move the 13th or the 20th as the extended day from a Tuesday to a Wednesday, and then get that back on a Tuesday. So that would just simply need to have FEA agreement because Tuesdays are the contractual days.
So the point being that faculty meeting time is essential in order to meet the number of conferences that are needed.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So I wouldn't be doing anything with that. And then my only other question was in March, the 9th and the 16th both have early releases for high school, for secondary PD. And I was wondering if you could explain how that's being used.
We haven't put the PD calendar together for next year yet. We are working on that. That could potentially be, just as, we're just looking at it now, that we could have early dismissal for pre-K 5 for conferences and use only one of those days for ED for secondary, and the other day similarly to October, just be a full day of school for secondary. So we can pull that back.
Yeah, because one of my concerns had been, of course, is that you're right in the glide path, at least for the AP classes, of needing that class time. So that was one of my concerns.
That's a good catch. We did not mean to have PD on both, only on one, and then the other one would be a full day for secondary, similar to what we did in October. So that's just, we can make that change.
And so I'll admit, I'm not positive about this. Does that have to be a motion, or is it because it's within the school days, that's something, because that's kind of
That does not need to be a motion.
Good, okay, because it's kind of the fine print.
Yeah.
And I think that the only other thing I will say is, obviously this is a change of practice, from currently from 3 conference days down to 2, which I know staff finds it disruptive. I know parents certainly do. I'm very sorry that we can't, I was considering bringing a motion forward with the policy change to make it exclusive of orientation so that we could have had it on the previous Friday. But ultimately I wasn't willing to pull the trigger on that one. Let's try it out with these 2. If this is a great success, okay, but otherwise I am keen, because I believe next year we'll have the relief of a day, and that we might be able to try it out for at least one of the 2 semesters. So not that I want to take on the problems of the 27-28 calendar just yet, but I just want to say that I at least was keenly interested in giving that a try. I just recognize that this took into account everything we asked for, and that would have been just, I think, maybe one thing too many.
Yeah, and just as, just to mention, next year when we do bring this forward, we're looking to just change the format. So similar to some other districts, Meg and I talked about this. It looks a little bit cleaner to do all the listing of the days, maybe to the left, and just have the calendar with all the emblems and symbols on the right, rather than underneath in this kind of hard to read fashion. It'll look cleaner. So unless the board objects, we could publish it in a more clean, linear way where all the dates, for example, July 4th, the August dates, the September would all go down the line on top of each other, and then all the calendar to the right, or vice versa. If you don't mind that, we can change the format once approved, and just we can show the board if they give the thumbs up or not, and then we can publish it the other way. I think it'll be just a cleaner read for the public.
I have to admit, I like it under the month, but I'd be totally game for seeing what it looked like. Mr. Asa?
Yeah, just to come back, so I'm a little confused on the March, what you just mentioned about, so right now it says March 9th, early dismissal pre-K through 5.
So the changes to the 612 PD.
Yeah, so how would there be 612 PD if
There
there
would,
was
there
no
would
early
only be
dismissal?
612 PD. It'll be early dismissal on one of the days for everyone.
So we would need to amend that at the table.
That's what I was asking.
Yes, because the board approves a calendar, so we would need to amend that at the table.
Well, it's early dismissal for everybody on
But
both days.
the way it reads now is it's early dismissal for pre-K through 5.
And then it's everybody, and then
Right.
612. So pre-K through 5 is conferences, 612 PD.
Understood. So I still think that if we were going to take one of the 612s out, it would be cleaner if we just did that for you here.
Okay.
Just
sounds good.
Yeah, and just to avoid any question.
That's fine.
The question is, are you prepared to tell us which day?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Either one would be a PD day. So, and it's a Tuesday. That's why they're already staying late for PD. So it would just be a day pick either one.
Okay.
Mrs. Jacobson?
I mean, I agree with you, and it would be nice to do it on the 9th, wouldn't it? Because then the next day is a holiday so that the 612 kiddos would have a half day on the 9th and then the next day off as well, versus the 16th where there's not the next day.
Yeah.
So you could actually do something on the 9th,
I would.
Yep. So the 16th, we're just saying that would be a full day for 612.
Yeah, we'd literally on this draft, we would just literally cross off 612 PD.
Correct.
So can I make a motion to make an amendment?
And
Okay. So I'd like to make sorry, I don't have this prepared. I'd like to make an amendment that for March 16th,
9th.
March 9th,
No, you were right. You were right. You were right.
March 16th, we strike the words 6 through 12 PD under the comments under the calendar. And on October,
you're going to add not 612.
Yep. Wait, what?
You're going to add the words, instead of PD's 612 PD, it's going to be in parentheses, not 612.
No, we just take it off.
Or you can leave it, but I know she was Ms. Maxon Kennelly. If you just want to make it clear that the 612 folks are not going to be coming home early.
So I could add full day 6. Yes.
If you were to strike
beginning at the number 6 through 12 and through PD, does that get your intended language?
That's what I had said.
That's what he said.
I think that that covers it. That's how I read it,
I'm
but
confused on October, Nick.
hang on, can we finish May first before we go to October?
It's March.
March, excuse me. Now we're talking about all different things.
That was my fault. I was trying to point out to Mr. Asa the language on it on October where it says not
Oh, I got it.
HS,
Okay.
thinking that we should replicate not 6 through 12 in March. So
We could,
that was
she
me
was saying we
confusing
could,
things.
replace it with not
Yeah,
secondary,
so
not.
what I have
We're gonna give a lot of communication as the day's approaching and the day before.
I'm
so
just
that
trying to keep
everyone's
it easy.
aware.
I want to strike 6 through 12 PD.
I think that that covers it. That's what I have.
I'll second.
Okay.
Can I have a
And
second?
Jen's gonna
Second,
it.
Mrs. Jacobson. Any discussion? Any input from the public?
Just on the amendment.
Just on the amendment. Okay, back to the board. Those in favor? It is unanimous. So now back to the main motion as amended. Any other discussion? Out to the public. Any comments? Okay, back to the board. All those in favor? And the calendar, Mrs. Bardenwerper, Mr. Krasnoff, Mr. Lee, Mrs. Jacobson, Mrs. Flynn, Mrs. Maxim Kennelly, Mr. Asa, and Ms. O'Neill. Those opposed? And abstaining, Ms. Rinaldi. All right, so the motion passes 801. Thank you so much, Mr. Testani, for all of the drafts and for taking all our comments into account. We'll now move on to agenda item 8, new business. First reading of the technology education textbooks. And I don't know if either Mr. Testani or Dr. Zavajanzik want to give us some opening comments.
Sure, thank you. Similar to the business presentation, the tech ed department within their curriculum has reviewed some of their textbooks for their transportation technology courses 1 through 5. In front of you are the small gas engines for Transportation Tech 1 and Modern Automotive Tech for the remaining classes. With that said, Mr. McLeese is our liaison for Tech Ed and will give you the stated reasons behind the copyright changes.
Thank you very much. Basically, as I'm sure most of you would agree, your cars have changed significantly since 2004 and 2009. And that's the hard copy versions that we have in the classrooms at this point. So they're 20, whatever the math is, 19 and 17 years old. We've been getting or continuing with renewing the online versions. But we do, from time to time, we have kids who need to read at a different pace, or they need to physically go over to a vehicle or whatever it is, and they're underneath the vehicle. They need to have something in their hands that they can work with. What we're asking for here, and as you can see, the current textbooks are no longer able to be purchased. What we're looking for are classroom sets. And the small gas engines, the updated version or the most recent edition is 2023. They haven't come out with a new one since then. And they just recently, actually comes out in 26, but they're already publishing it. The Modern Automotive, which is used for all 2 through 5 classes. And we're looking for classroom sets. So it would be 20 copies at each school of each book. They'll stay in the classrooms, and beyond that, the main reason the books have been reorganized. The textbooks haven't, because they're so old, they haven't been, they don't align with the online version anymore. A lot of the content is changed slightly here and there, but they've organized it. It's much more efficient for us to teach the kids, depending on what it is, how to follow along, because the books now are exactly parallel to the online version.
Okay.
This is Chris Carney, one of our teachers at Fairfield Ludlow High School. If you have any more technical questions, he's happy to answer them.
Okay, Mr. Asa.
So thank you for this. As someone in the late 90s who had some of their favorite courses in automotive, I remember them quite well, and worked in the automotive industry for many years, specifically in service. So The one question I do have though is knowing that and that baseline, knowing that most automotive technicians that work on vehicles today are using computer-based manuals. Can you just touch on the reason for having that? Because I'm a big supporter of handheld textbooks for our classes. I do believe in that. But in this case, if this is something that you are going to pursue, the days of the old books are gone. So this for one instance seems like online might be more practical.
So the online, we actually do use the online resources quite a bit, but the textbook itself is sort of doing sort of the more traditional things, giving them the underlying foundation that they need to know to go and work on the car. And I'll tell you right now that most of the time when they're going to the car, they have a tablet in their hand as they're going to work on the cars. The way the classes are set up with 2 lifts in them, with the numbers of kids, more often than not, there's only 2 groups of 2 or 3 that are working on cars. And during those times, the other kids are at their at the workstation, at the desks, doing things within the books or other assignments that they're using the textbooks for. And so we just want to have the newer, most latest version for those kids to use. I agree that using a print version is much better than the online version, but we do understand the need for them to be doing it. And like I said, they all have a tablet in their hand as they're going to the car, plugging into the computer, because the cars today are more computers than they are cars. And so we're not getting away from that at all.
Okay. And then my other question, I mean, this is a relatively low number, so I'm not going to fight you on this.
Yep.
But I do have a question, and it's more to the evolution of the vehicles and so much more going towards electrified vehicles. Does the new text and the new online resource get into that enough that you think this will carry us for a few years?
Without a doubt. Even the old textbooks are talking about electrified vehicles and hybrid vehicles. There are more chapters about it in the newer books. What we'd love to do is try and figure out more ways to get electrified cars and hybrid cars into the shop and be able to get the kids to work on them in a safe way. They are more dangerous to work on in many different ways. So we're exploring avenues for that. The costs for that are pretty prohibitive, but we're trying to figure out new ways to bring more of that into the curriculum. Currently, a lot of what we do around electrified vehicles and hybrid vehicles is textbook work, unfortunately.
I would just offer that if interested through Mr. Testani, I'd be happy to help you because I still have a lot of connections in the industry and who support the education of future technicians. So I have helped other school districts get vehicles for permanent use and other temporary uses. So I'd be happy to lend that to you.
I appreciate it. That'd be fantastic. One of the ones that we're looking at is there's a Switch Labs where they could actually construct an electrified vehicle. It operates on a 24-volt system, so it's a lot safer, but it teaches them how to use, how an electrified car works. But even that,
$100,000 per school.
Per school, so it's pretty expensive to go down this road.
If I just may, just to clarify one thing too, or to add on to your original question, when the kids are working on the cars, they are then looking at the repair manual online for that specific vehicle. But this is more of like a general thing on, so.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for having the stamina to stay with us this whole night. I'm glad you got a half day tomorrow. So thank you very much.
You have to remember, we're the guys who fix the VCRs and the DVD players.
And I put my agenda down. Okay. All right, so now we'll move on to first reading of policies. Everyone had those in their handbook. I'm going to ask if you could first focus on the first 2. And then we'll talk about the third on use of AI. If you have any questions on employee safety, accidents and absences, and then the inclusion of the FMLA language. Mrs. Jacobson.
I just had a question on the second one, the 4152.6. On this legal references on the last page, I was just wondering if there was a reason why the legislation that recently passed in 2025 that had to do with the non-cert employees being FMLA eligible now, which was 25-174, if that needed to be added.
I don't know. Ms. Ingram, if you can come up.
And maybe that's not an answer for tonight. I mean, whatever. It's just
Right.
that if you all recall, they passed legislation where our non-certified employees are also eligible for FMLA.
And I know that we're practicing that now in terms of how they ask for their time away.
Right. And it just wasn't here. That's all. It obviously applies to this policy, so thought I'd bring it up.
Good evening, Kanika Ingram. We'll look into it and I'll get back to you.
25-174.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Either of the first two policies, Mr. Krasnoff?
Just to that point, CES just wrote one and they had to add it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, first reading for discussion of the use of artificial intelligence, policy 6141.3273. So in policy, Mr. Asa and I were, Mr. Taddy brought all of the board comments as well as those of you who sent me emails. Thank you very much. That all went to the AI, I'd call it task force, except that it's a group of over 50. And ultimately, Mr. Taddy had to, Mr. Taddy, you might as well come up to the table. And, you know, they took into account the feedback. You can see that reflected here so that this is now a fuller policy. I also did, and this is not the snazzy colored one, but I did ask that you get included the ARs. So you see that there have been some changes made there as well. And at this point, it's Mr. Ace and I were actually, I believe we pretty much said explicitly in policy. There was nothing more that only two people in a room could do at that point. We took in, put in a lot more of the explicit language that the board asked for. And then at this point, we wanted to bring it back to the board for more feedback. Obviously, we have gotten some emails and had some public comment regarding the policy. And at this point, we would like to hear from the board. Mr. Lee.
So I hear what the people earlier today said, and I'm kind of in agreement with them too. However, the longer we wait, we need to have some kind of basic policy in place. The longer we wait to try and develop something, AI is changing the minute we leave the room. We need some kind of foundation. So my question is, obviously we're not voting on this tonight. As we move forward, how long do you see in policy, and maybe do get a task force and look at other practices? Would something else come that we can add on to the current policy or whatever the case may be?
So obviously there can be two different paths forward. We can right now, it's not that staff is operating with no instruction whatsoever. We have guidelines in place already. That was the colorful document that you got last time and which is now attached here as the AR. So it's not that there is no guidance. What would happen with policy if we had more specific policy, more stringent policy, more extensive policy, what could very likely happen then is that the AR created by staff would no longer be in compliance with policy, and that would prompt the change to the regs. But I want to be clear, it's not that it's wild, wild west right now with our staff. They've gotten PD on this. They have the guidance that you see before them. Very important, I think, to note that any AI use has to be staff approved in the first place, and our elementary school students do have no access on their Chromebooks to this. There have been no licenses approved, so that's not even something that's used. Now, I'm not saying if they're using it at home or not, but on the school Chromebooks, they do not have access. But again, so that's where we are right now. So If the board at our next meeting approved the policy, that's not to say we couldn't say, now let's do something community-based and possibly come back for changes. Or we could simply hold on the policy if it was the will of the board to get more information, let the regs stay in place. The only way we're changing the regs is if we put something in the policy that contradicted regs, and that would prompt a regs change. So we do have a few options before us. Ms. Barnwerper.
I do think that we should maybe strengthen the policy so that some of these regs do change. Specifically with the idea generation. I know that it has to be teacher approved, but that just worries me that AI could be approved in a situation, that the whole project, the idea could be, it's the idea, like the idea that like the original thought. You could say, oh, it's like great, we're going to compare Hunger Games to like modern governments and compare and contrast. And if they say, yeah, you can use it for initial idea evaluation, well, that could be the whole project. Like that unique thought is the project. And I just get very worried that having that language could be interpreted in the wrong way. And secondly, I know that this is a student focused policy, but the fact that we don't have anything about kind of staff usage concerns me, specifically with the grading of papers. We're making such an effort to ensure that our students are not using AI for, paper generation, and that they are unique thoughts. And I believe that they should be graded by a teacher, and that we should have some parameters around that. Because while I know that that is a very time consuming task, I also think that the whole relationship between the student and the teacher comes from them reading their work and really understanding it on, a deeper level, which, I mean, students are working very hard on these papers and spending hours, and I just think that they really deserve that time and attention from a person, so that we don't have machines talking to each other. Thank you.
And just before I go to other comments, Mr. Taddy, I was hoping you could, and I want to be clear, obviously as a high school English teacher, completely get the concern about, when I saw the phrase ideas generation, it hives. We did have some of our academic leaders at our policy meeting who gave an example which at least provided some color where I understood the use. Mr. Taddy, I don't know if you can relay that example that Ms. Souza gave, or if there was another one that has come up in your staff discussions.
Yeah, and I do want to add, in terms of the idea generation, it's something that could be used, and the whole point of it was that a teacher, in your example, would not have allowed that use. So I think that in a circumstance where the teacher is unaware that they need to set those guidelines, that becomes the problem. But in terms of the particular wording here, I just want to be clear that this is something that they have the ability to set if they feel it's something that could be helpful. So Colleen Sousa actually brought up an example where they're talking about creating a wrap, right? And the idea was not about the wrap itself. It was actually about the content and about the delivery of it, about working with your peers. And a few of the groups had used AI to kind of help guide through it because they didn't know how to create rap in general. That wasn't something that they had a high skill in, and it wasn't the point of the assignment. In that example, the teacher allowed that use. Hey, you can use the following AI tool to create or to help you work on this rap. And then that was the example that was given in that circumstance. But another circumstance could have been that the teacher said, you cannot use AI in the following assignment. I want you to create that rap if that was the circumstance.
So the one part I want to reiterate, because Ms. Souza really emphasized this, was the whole notion of that whatever that, and again, I'm not trying to convince anyone that this is a right or wrong, but just speaking for her, was that it was not the academic focus of the assignment. It was not the part that was being graded. It was something that became part of it. And again, she didn't give us a whole litany of what the lesson was, but she was very clear that that's not the part that was being graded. That was not the academic focus, but it is something that tied in to the class collaboration.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of a project where if you were, you could create a storyboard on paper, or you can make a PowerPoint in digital, or you could create a video, you think of any history assignment, we just talked about social studies, think about all the different types of assignments that students are given, and they have multiple opportunities to how to actually create it. The teacher set those guidelines. These are the things that are applicable, and the student, if they're feeling that they're out of bounds, would actually have the question with the teacher, is this okay to do? And because AI is something that everyone knows exists, it's a tool that can be used, that would be up to the teacher to discuss with the students on the assignment what's allowed and what isn't allowed.
Okay, Mr. Krasnov?
Thank you. First off, I appreciate a lot of the changes, especially to the regs. They went from no definitions to a lot of definitions, so I do appreciate that. However, I do agree with Ms. Bordenwalber. I think we kind of missed an opportunity with the teacher side that maybe there should be a policy and a reg created around teacher guidelines, when you can't use it. Obviously it's up to you, Mr. Testani, from whoever, I guess the chair to Mr. Testani. Yeah.
No
Acting chair.
disagreement there. I think we would probably need to have some conversations with the FEA on this to make sure that contractually we stay within our purview. And I think it's always good to have those conversations that we enter into these agreements or policies as a partner and not in an adversarial way, but no disagreement. We don't want substitute artificial intelligence feedback for real feedback from teachers on student work. But we can't be naive to the fact that AI is going to be used. And it is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I just attended an event last week at Fairfield University as a guest, and there was a discussion amongst folks in the higher ed business world. And the facts are the facts. There is employers are looking for employee candidates that have a high AI IQ, and they pay a premium for employees that do have high competency in the use of artificial intelligence. So that is something that is a fact. And the data will also show that corporations are more likely to hire someone with high AI competency over a college degree. So that's the world we live in today. But I do think that we're talking about a wide range of student ages from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So I think as we develop our policies, we may also want to scaffold our use and restrictions based on grade levels as well, elementary, middle, and high school.
I appreciate that. Also, as we heard from the expert, sometimes like creating a curriculum for the day may be beneficial, or reviewing your curriculum. So I understand there's positive uses too. So thank you.
And also just to make clear that you're talking about a separate policy, remember that this is in the 6,000s. So that is instruction. So that'd be the place for it. Mr. Lee, no, sorry, you already spoke. Mrs. Jacobson.
Hi, thank you very much. I have a quick question for administration. What are the platforms that you have okayed for use in our buildings?
For students, the currently only one for secondary schools is Magic School.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Magic School.
For secondary schools.
That is the only one in the entire district that's allowed.
So on on your website, it says school AI for all ages in our app area.
In terms of the school AI as in one of the approved applications, I could take a look at to what you're talking about, the app approved list. I could take a look at that, but that would be just that it meets privacy, not that it's actually being allowed. And then the
Well, it's on
discussions.
the link. Click here to see what the approved link,
Right. So currently that list, and then that page has some more context, is we've gone through the privacy policies of websites and applications and reviewed them, and they're okay, whether they're being currently allowed. The only one that has filter on is Magic School currently. Even Gemini, which is actually approved.
And Magic School's not on the list, which is funny. Yeah. So anyway, like maybe that page needs like some work. I don't know.
Agreed. Actually,
because I do use it on a regular basis, actually.
Part of that discussion is actually to, and I think we've discussed this at a previous board meeting, was to separate it into what we're actually using, because it turned into a list of things that have been approved for privacy purposes, which is still true,
Which is great.
but
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that it's either being paid for, being used regularly,
What grades?
what grades, et cetera. So we've already started segmenting off another list and build an actual list of paid, free, and grade specific. And we still want to maintain that privacy, because a scenario comes up is that other individuals are using and want to see what tools they could use and even have discussions. It's still helpful as a mechanism
I
to
see what you're
see.
saying.
In the past, they would go to the state list and
Yeah.
say, hey, it's on the state list. This is great. But it turns out that the state list is actually not that up to date. So we're maintaining this a little bit more rigorously. But again, it's on applications that may not necessarily be on our list of used applications. So Gemini is a good example. Gemini chat is currently allowed in terms of privacy. But we do not allow it to students. It's being blocked. So that's a scenario where it's allowed for privacy purposes, but we have not, as a district, discussed that it should be used by students. We don't have a policy in place to enforce anything specifically. We're talking about guidelines and what we want to allow in terms of the classroom use, but currently that's not allowed.
Okay. In this area where it says all staff will set clear and explicit guidelines for the use of AI in their individual classes. So each and every classroom is able to set their own guidelines?
That feeds back to the regs in terms of, we're talking about the previously inappropriate, appropriate use discussions. We're changing the wording of that to make it more applicable to what it makes sense. But essentially, it's to say, like we're talking about the scenario with the social studies classroom, where in that example, AI use was okay on that assignment in that classroom, while as in the exact same cohort of students going to an English class asking about writing an essay, that exact would not be allowed. So that's what that phrasing we're talking about is the staff that are running that class. in
Based
that
on the
assignment.
assignment in front of them. So
Yes.
it's not like overall, like it just, what the words on this paper say is not what you're describing. What the words on the paper say is that they can just set their own guidelines overall. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so when you explain it, you're explaining it on the basis of the assignment in front of them, not necessarily like their philosophy on the use of AI. You know what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're
Okay.
saying, yes.
And Mrs. Jacobson, just a quick interruption. That was language we added. That was not staff language. But one of the things that we had heard from the last discussion of AI is that we wanted a little bit more direction towards staff explicitly. So that's what we crafted to put in. So again, well, with all of this, obviously open for how can we say more specifically or capture what the board was wanting, but that was language we added.
Okay, so I was one of the person, just because a full board obviously doesn't know this, that sent in some feedback and some other district sample policies that I thought had a little bit more structure to it. So I don't know what the consensus is to the committee at this point or is going to be. But what I would like to see is a different structure here, where we're starting out with compliance in the regulatory framework around things like FIPA, FERPA, COPA, compliance with the state laws. That's not in here. Then we're moving to the procurement and vendor standards that you're expecting, like the administration approves, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Then we're getting into the professional development and what people have been talking about here in terms of providing for the staff on an ongoing basis and what others have mentioned here. Then moving into the uses and the benefits of it as you deem appropriate around the ethical guidelines and whatnot, and then going to the prohibited uses. What did strike me a little bit here is that for our cell phone regs, we have 4 levels of discipline at every single level, including suspension from school if you pull out your phone during the day. And there is no mention of it if you create some harm to someone by a product that we're allowing in our building. I mean, I found that to be a little astonishing, actually. So I think that you've captured the positive possibilities quite here. But at this, my feedback is the same as it was the last time it was in front of us, that I don't think we've captured the safety and security pieces well enough. Or if there's differentiation by grade level, that, like as Mr. Testani was previously mentioning, if that was a consideration, and providing a little bit more structure to this that captures some of those different buckets. So it sounds to me like we're not allowing this in K-5 at all right now, right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So should that go in the policy?
In previous discussions, if something was to change, if something was to adapt or a different piece of software, we've discussed this a lot in the policy committee as well about what is AI software, what is generative AI within
Well, if
other
we don't know
software
that
we're using.
question, we probably need to work on that a little bit more, right? I mean,
No, I'm stating specifically, we have a lot of software in our district, correct?
Right.
A lot of software that's being used that everyone's okay with being used, or we're discussing it in curricular need. Those all they're starting to become AI regulated, AI ran, AI processed. Even our testing has AI mixed into it.
our testing.
There's just different levels of AI that's being used at the state level, even to generate these tests, to grade these tests, to automate the testing. This is a process that existed for a long time, and it will continue to build. So, in terms of will K-5 be stuck in there? Well, what if there's a particular tool that's okay for students to use because it's not capturing any of their content or their data, and they're using it currently at K-5? Or what if a new tool or a tool that they've already been using has an AI component to it that's added that still meets all the privacy needs? Then is that okay to be used?
What do you think? I mean, we're not doing it right now.
Correct.
I mean, we
again,
allow Google, and now Google has an AI component to it. I mean,
yes.
Well, I don't want to put out to the public that it's not being used in K-5, as was stated here this evening, if that in fact isn't the case.
I think this statement should be that particular AI tools for generative, in terms of what we're considering the definition of generative AI, in terms of creating and processing, are not being allowed.
Okay. But AI in general.
But exactly, our worry is in all of these discussions, and especially when we're talking about why the policy was vague, was that our worry was that as this builds and evolves, we're not going to be able to have any backing to let our staff actually figure out the best way to route their classroom. Are they suddenly going to say one day, hey, all the software that we just bought, it's not allowed? The policy says K-5 that anything with AI is not allowed. Well, now they can't use.
I was only asking that question to be clear because it was stated at this table that it's not being used. So that's why I was questioning it.
Yeah.
I didn't make the statement that it wasn't being used. So just if I can finish. So I think I provided a bit of a framework. It's up to the policy committee if they're taking, or if everyone's fine with the way that it is. But that's the kind of a structure that I'd like to see, and I provided some samples around that. I think at the very least, we need to put some compliance measures in here. I mean, that's just basic with those and there's no statutory references either, so including those. I think there's legitimate concerns on safety and security. I mean, it's in the headlines every day. I don't think that anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about and how this is being, can harm kids. And this policy doesn't address that. So again, I know that this is a really difficult topic to try to balance some of the benefits that people want to see as it evolves, while also making sure that we're doing as a board and as a district what we can to make sure that the negative components stay as far away from our kids as possible, at least when they're on our time. So that's my feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to Mrs. Flynn next, but just one quick statement, just for everyone to be aware, is that obviously that we have plenty of policies that cover issues of maluse, plagiarism. We don't need to have that spelled out along with steps of, step 1, step 2, step 3. We already have that. I do believe that there are plenty of measures in place already when it comes to discipline. But that said, Mrs. Flynn, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. I'll echo what some fellow board members have said. I have zero interest in this policy as it's before me. I have asked in leadership for sure, and I'm not positive if I've done it at this table, but I'll again request through our leadership to the to the superintendent, that we could have a presentation from this AI task force in this committee. I took the time to listen to the policy committee meeting, and just the short snippets that I heard, I found helpful. I think the idea that we have a policy before us that so many people are uncomfortable with, and I'll use the word uncomfortable tepidly, I would go far further than that. To me, safety should be in the utmost of priority at the top of this page, not the educational purpose. I've seen no data before me that there is any educational purpose. I hear a lot of talk about job force and that, which I could take, but we are starting to see the cumulative data of one-to-one technology and what we're seeing, and it does not look great. And I was in this room when one-to-one got kind of pushed forward because of the COVID pandemic. We don't have that before us. We have plenty of time, in my opinion. Like I said, currently Magic School is not on our K through 5 Chromebooks, correct? Is it on our 6 through 12 Chromebooks?
9 through 12.
9 through 12. So
Yeah,
it's
so-
not in middle schools either.
So currently, it's only, you have to be over 13 years of age to use it.
So some people in our middle schools are using it. How do we determine if they're 13 or not?
The teachers do.
The teachers
Yeah.
are using. So are any what students have access right now to Magic School on a Chromebook?
Currently 9 through 12 do.
So nobody K through 8 has that on a Chromebook.
It's possible for a teacher to pull them up in a class setting and actually use it, but whether a student's actually directly interacting with it.
You
would
mean
be-
on a Chromebook?
Correct.
So a teacher, is that K through 8 or K through 5? That ability
That ability
to pull up the Magic School app and use it in a classroom with children. Is that ability for K through 8, K through 12, K through 5, or is that just an
9
ability
through-
our teachers have?
All teachers right now, it's only secondary, so 6 through 12 currently have
Have
licensing.
the ability to?
Yeah.
Do any students have the ability to interact with chatbots? Magic School uses chatbots. I researched it a little today to interact with like fake historical figures. Are kids talking to like fake Abe Lincolns online?
Well, each one of those systems that the student facing portion of the teacher has to actually send or share the particular chatbot or whatever they're building. So the tool is sent from the teacher to the student through either like Classroom or something of that nature.
Okay.
So a student can't just go and use those chat features. They're actually not only using it because they were shared by a teacher,
Okay.
but also all of their interactions are shown to the teacher in real time.
Okay.
So they have full access to that. So it's not something that they're just going
That they're
off
just doing on their
in
own.
the chatbot, like they would on ChatGPT or something. of that
Totally
nature.
understood. I took also the liberty of watching the May meeting of the Westport Board of Ed.
Yeah.
Westport was awarded one of the $100,000 grants that enabled them to use Magic School in their schools for a year, K through 12.
Right.
And they listed through a whole lot of, I would say a few successes they found and a whole lot of issues. Were you guys in touch with Westport at all when you went through to look at this policy in terms of like issues that they came up with? Like, so this seems to be like it came from, maybe it's a better question for the policy committee. Did we look at any other local policies? Did we look at the ones that were submitted from Stratford or Westport or any other local communities?
So we took the emails from staff, from several of you, we received several policies, which we asked the task force to look at. So we were not going to start picking and choosing without more clear direction than that. One board member giving us one policy, one board member giving us 3 policies. That's not the kind of direction that's helpful for policy. So and again, Mr. Ace and I knew, we both knew we needed feedback before we, went any further with this. But I'll talk more about that once the conversation's done.
Okay, then I guess I would just request formally through, I just think that presentation that your committee got would be helpful. Like I said, I think we keep shuddering between the policy committee being too small to make this big decision and then getting information that we don't get as a full board. And then the policy comes back to us. We still don't have that information. We've never seen it. We've never heard it. We've never heard from this task force. Like, I think at this point, if you want a complex answer from the body of 9, I think we need complex information that the policy committee has received.
Mr. Lee. Oh, sorry, Kristen, it should have been you.
Oh, you.
Actually, if we could, because I want to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone's spoken first before we go for a second round. Mrs. O'Neill?
Hi, this is a quick question, and I apologize. It is a new board member question and something I just thought of tonight that I didn't have time to check myself. Do we have district-wide software that checks for plagiarism? Like I'm thinking when I was a teacher, we used turnitin.com, and how can that check for AI usage in student work? How does that work?
Yeah, so as of 2 years ago, we had Turnitin, and they actually rolled out an AI component to actually scan, which then was released to be not accurate and very expensive. We still use plagiarism checkers, actually something built right into Google Drive. As part of it, it's only for our district, so it's all locked in. It says from a privacy standpoint, it's actually a better system than Turnitin, where it's globally shared. But in terms of AI detection, this is still a fleeting discussion that everyone's having. So just want to bring that up. And then Turnitin, like I said, did try to tackle that, but not well. No.
Well, just to answer that, the real hard part about things like Turnitin AI detection is no one's going to have your back as a teacher if you try to accuse a student, because it can be, nope, that's wrong. That can be explained. I ran it through Grammarly. It made some corrections. Now it's suddenly getting flagged. It's not like the plagiarism check where you could find the definitive source, match it to the student work, and okay, say busted. The AI is, you can know it, but you have to, as a teacher on an individual basis, prove it with the student. So it's unfortunate.
And I don't want to speak for teachers and actually how they grade in that process, but from a technical side, we do a lot of things like, for example, in a Google Doc, we have revision history checkers that are checking how often was typing done, how many pastes were done, how many large pastes were done, how fast or how long were they typing for. We're doing a lot of statistics on the Google Docs, and as they're working through papers, and they have to share their actual original source. So not to say that it's 100% going to give them an idea of what happened, especially if they're doing small pastes, especially if they're looking at the piece of paper and typing.
Yep.
But for the most part, it's going to eliminate large pastes, large copies, large corrections done by Grammarly even. You would see that suddenly this whole paragraph now actually looks great.
Just appeared, right? No,
Or
that's
just
great. I
appeared
did
as
not
well.
know about that. Thank you.
Yeah, kids are getting better around getting around that too.
Well, I
yeah.
also want to mention that as the English teachers in the room, the writing conferences are set up specifically so that the whole process can be a feedback loop to the students. So it's going to be much more difficult to use an AI generated essay or writing assignment if the teachers are actually using the writing conferences that we provide them contractually to make sure that throughout the process of writing the piece, that they're checking in with students during the writing conferences. So the one example that's always comes forward are the English teachers. And should we go back to blue books and all these other things? We have a built-in mechanism to make sure that throughout the process, there are feedback loops and revisions that are happening. And if that's not happening, that's the first tool our teachers have in defense of using AI generated, plagiarized pieces of work at the high school level.
Mr. Lee.
Just quick question. I apologize if this was already answered. Are we blocking on the Chromebooks, Gemini, and those kind of products?
Yes.
What about if a high schooler, which is very common, brings their own laptop in?
If they bring their own laptop and connect to the network, we're also blocking it.
Cell phones too, and any other?
If they're connecting, yeah.
Okay, okay. The pretend cell phones they don't have in their bag or whatever. Are we blocking and iPads and things like that
Anything connected to our network,
onto their network?
onto our district network, Wi-Fi or wired. So that if they were to use cellular, then we have no control over their access on their own personal or private device.
Okay, thanks.
But that you bring up a good point. If they're going to go to those extremes, they're going to do it at home. So are we now going to create a policy that if parents allow their children to use AI to create that the kid automatically gets a 0 and there's no other option and we suspend them, I mean,
I mean, a bigger thing, and you brought up a great example with the English teachers. What's this next generation of teachers that are learning in college? What are they teaching them? Is it reflective of what's going on with AI? Or is it reflective of, the old, I don't want to say old time way of teaching, but
there is a
teaching before
program,
that.
there is an AI program, Perplexity, that Matt Mervis, if you go to any of his workshops, will show teachers can generate AI-proof lessons and assignments. And it gives you a rating, or you can run your own assignment through the Perplexity platform and it'll rate it on its AI proofness, so to speak. So it will say it's a level 1, which is horrible. And it will then, you can then revise it until it gets to a level where kids can't use AI to generate their assignment. Or you can just ask it, give me an AI proof assignment in US history for this, and it will generate that assignment for you. So these are tools that if we allow teachers to use, will combat the student's ability to be able to create AI generated work.
Any final questions? Okay, so at this point, obviously we don't have our next set of committees yet, so I'm just going to speak as the existing policy person at the moment. My plan would be to let this come up on, or to encourage that it comes up for the vote December 9th, and that at that, I'm not saying that we're necessarily have to vote, but at that point, the decision would be made unless the board can say right now, definitively send it back. Because what policy to structure, to move forward would be very clear direction. And if you have been listening to this discussion, there is no clear direction right now. Definitely some consistent points about staff usage, for example. That came up a few times. That would be something I would be comfortable saying, I think this might need to be reflected, or that could be a simple amendment at the table on the 9th. Mr. Krasnov?
My suggestion would be to stick with the regs and wait for the policy to be taken up by whoever the new policy committee is and not push it forward on the 9th.
So just so that I'm clear, so at this point, you would not feel comfortable on the 9th, either through some amendments of doing anything at this time?
I just think there's a lot of questions, open-endedness throughout board comments that I've personally heard tonight, and I'm not sure if I support the policy as is, to be very honest. I do like the way the regs are starting to lean, and at least the regs are there for now, and I think we need to have a bigger discussion. I kind of respect what Ms. Flynn said, that maybe we should hear from this AI committee, or, I just think it's a really big decision policy-wise, and the regs are there, and I like the regs. They seem to be a lot better than they were, a few weeks ago. There's a lot more detail in there. So why don't we go with the regs and work on the policy?
Mr. Lee?
If there's a current reg out there right now, right? Is what my understanding is.
Yes, it's
No matter-
attached here
but
in
no
black.
matter- But no matter what happens,
Correct.
I mean, I think if there's something out there current, and obviously it's we're all seeing it at a different angle, I don't have a problem sending it back and not even bringing it up on the 9th and continue to work on it, because that's what's going to have to be done anyway. If it gets rejected on the 9th, you're going to have to go back and rework it anyway.
So let me just, to be clear, is there any argument for I'm ready to vote even with via minor amendment? Okay, the one thing, however, that is not clear at all, and I say from the non-policy committee members, of whom there are 7 of you, we don't actually have direction. Just saying send it back to the committee is actually, in point of fact, not helpful. I mean, Mr. Asa and I, again, as we were working on this, we came forward because we wanted to know, and that's where Mrs. Jacobson, I very much appreciate and took note of your comments. You had very specific areas. And just saying send it back to committee is in fact not a helpful direction at all. Mrs. Bardenwerper.
Apologies, this is probably definitely a new board question. What is the harm in taking it to vote and potentially, making some amendments and then bringing it back up? Like, could the policy committee revisit it in January? Like, could we say, we just feel we need to get something in place now, but we understand it's imperfect and then we need to continue to work at it?
You're absolutely right, and that's how policy can work, and that's why I was asking if the sense of the body was we won't even vote for it as existing or with a minor tweak, then that's what I needed to know. On the other hand, if the sense of the body is yes, we'd like to do that to have something in place, and then let's keep working on it. That is a possible path forward. I'm trying to ascertain if it's the path forward of this board. Mr. Asa? Okay, Mr. Krasnov?
Well, that was my point about the regs. We have regs in place. I think we maybe need to hear from this AI committee, whether it's the whole committee or a representative. I think the full board should hear it, and maybe we can hash out what questions we have. Because to your point, I think we're all over the place and want to get this right.
Okay.
We want to get it right.
I couldn't, as I said, Mr. Asa and I were a little bit stuck. Mrs. Jacobson?
So for people who are not going to vote for this policy, what Mrs. Maxon Kennelly is saying, and as being someone who was on policy for a very long time, if you don't like it, what else do you want in it so that they know what to add? I said legal compliance, procurement and vendor standards, professional development and staff items, uses that we're comfortable with, uses that we're not comfortable with, and any references possibly to disciplinary as appropriate. Those were my buckets. So what she is saying is absolutely correct. We're not ready. Is it helpful? What is not in it today that you want them to draft language on so that they can do that? Because me just saying, here are my buckets is one person. So if everybody likes my buckets, then tell them you like my buckets or some of the buckets so that they actually have some guidance from the board to work off of. Thank you.
Mr. Krasnov?
I gave similar buckets, but I don't think discipline should be in there. And that's what I mean. Like, I really think we should hear from this committee so we can all decide in a consensus and the public can see that we heard from the committee versus just, the policy, hearing from the committee and drafting a policy. I think it's a lot of heavy lifting for you guys to do versus if we hear from the committee that looked at AI, I think the onus will be on the full board. That's just my suggestion.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn?
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the meetings start to get mixed together and where we are, and I think I've given support. The Stratford policy is the only one I've seen that even comes close to the entrance that I would be in favor of. It, to me, starts where we kind of left off and didn't hit. I will again reiterate that I went myself to listen to the policy committee because the information that you got I thought would be helpful for the full board. I've asked at leadership and I've asked at this table. So that is my request. I don't think that I can move forward without more information. And technology, to me, we've been talking about this in chunks for a really long time. I would love a full tech presentation for everything starting from our pre-K all the way to 12 so we could get like a firm handle moving forward. We have a lot of different policies. We kind of talked about this. We have a lot of different policies on technology. They're starting to kind of add up as we add up technologies that we're using. And I think, a decade later, I think it's time to kind of start looking at it more holistically. I just fundamentally believe that. And I think this is the policy that I'm going to make that hill on. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to leave that right there. Okay, moving on. Superintendent's report.
Just a few items. Just as was mentioned earlier, if you plan on attending the Thanksgiving Day football game on Thursday, advanced ticket purchase is required. You can do that online. Both of our high schools' athletic departments have the link. And if you do plan on attending, please bring a non-perishable item to help stock Operations Hope's food pantry. And thanks to everyone in advance. If you can't make it to the game, you still want to donate, you can stop by either high school tomorrow and make that drop off. Very important, we've had a few announcements over the last several months, and I'll just reiterate again, every week children end up in the emergency room from e-bike and e-scooter accidents, including broken bone, head injuries, and more. These are not rare accidents, and they are happening in our community on a regular basis. So in collaboration with the Fairfield Safe Streets Alliance, we're asking if you'd like to join us for a free panel discussion on Thursday, next Thursday, December 4th, 7 p.m. at the Fairfield Public Library. You can hear from ER doctors, first responders, local police and fire representatives about the responsible riding, essential safety gear, local laws, and battery fire risks. You can register through the Fairfield Public Library. Just want to acknowledge McKinley for having a great literacy night. Thanks to their amazing literacy specialists and PTA support, families had the opportunity to explore hands-on literacy games that reinforced student learning and connected directly to the work happening in the classrooms. And it was a great night of learning and community. And I just want to thank the entire Fairfield Public School community. In some way, shape, or form, every school did something to support families in need during this Thanksgiving holiday season. Thanks to the generosity of our staff, students, and families, incredible amount of Thanksgiving essentials and donations were collected. This initiative truly reflects the spirit of the Fairfield community, and one that I'm very happy to be and proud to be part of. And wish everyone a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Enjoy some time with family and friends. And for the staff and everyone, have some well-deserved time off and get ready for the last few weeks before the Christmas break.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, committee and liaison reports. Mr. Lee.
So we'll start off with the Dwight Building Committee. The next meeting they will have, they are going to go through the selection process of the owner's representative. They narrowed it down. It's down to 2. They're going to come in and do presentations, and then they will select from those presentations. So moving forward that way. As far as the HVAC IAQ committee, the 3 schools, North Strathfield, Woods, and Osborne Hill, they are completed and they will be closed out before Christmas break, is what I've been told. And so that is done. The school has central HVAC throughout the school and heating and proper air exchange. As far as the next step of Tomlinson, they already started the prep work for that. Believe it or not, the HVACs have been ordered, the equipment have been ordered and will be on site in the spring, which they will put in the storage, and they will just be ready to go the minute that bell rings in the summer to end school. They're going right in and they'll start the job then there too. So that's where we are on those.
Thank you. Mrs. Jacobson.
So continuing on the facilities theme, at our last meeting, I brought to the committee, and just for the full board to know, that what we heard in this Svigals report about the possible impact on how the state agencies might change their calculations for reimbursements amount, we're going to explore and figure out what that would mean. Should it go into place July 1st for our projects on the waterfall to which that would apply, so that we can inform this board and then also share any pertinent information going forward with the other boards, because that would significantly change our waterfall on a few of our items. And then if there is any, switching to the other position, if there is any legislative advocacy that this board would like to engage in on that front, then that is something that we should get together well before February 4th start date. So connecting those 2 threads. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, so I'll just on this on this agenda topic item, just want to remind the board that I did send you that email last night asking that on December 9th, when we do get a vote in our new chair, that the chair can then get from Mrs. Brown what all of you have submitted. Whether you use my doc or not is not relevant. The only thing that matters is the information that is on it. And for some of you, maybe what happens on that night will determine what you are interested in. But please get that in so that it's ready December 10th for the new chair, because obviously it's just the very basic detail of needing to have a meeting rapidly in order to appoint a chair and to establish your calendar, because the regular meeting calendar is due in January. So that speed can only happen if all 9 of us get our information in. Okay. No other committee liaison reports. Open board comment. Mr. Krasnoff?
Just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay. I just want to have one comment. Mrs. Flynn and I had a great time at the CABE Delegate Assembly. The two of us want to get together and craft a more organized, discussion with the board, because I think both of us were very enthusiastic that in terms of empowering, having our finger on the pulse of CABE, advocating for matters that are important to the Fairfield district, that we definitely see a more proactive position that Fairfield can get involved, but we did not have time because the just ended Saturday and we've been busy to be able to present that to you tonight, but we would like to talk to you about that in December because we really think it could be interesting. Again, we've both found it to be a really rewarding experience. Anyone else? All right, so then public comment. If anyone would like to come up, 3 minutes. And again, to not have spoken to an item you've already spoken to. You're new. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. Lexi Kennedy, 110 Figler Ave. You're welcome. Two quick comments. First, to Mr. Tasani's updates. I also want to thank everybody who's been involved with giving food for what's been going on. I also want to really make sure that the tone of that message stays. We are still very much in a food crisis. I know I said this last time, but 30% of our Holland Hill families are living right on the line, if not below. So we're very much like, happy Thanksgiving, happy everything, except it's still here. It's very much here. And Operation Hope that you spoke about is doing a crisis campaign right now. So I just want to make sure that the message stays that we really need to keep, this effort up and talk about it like it is a crisis, because it is. And then second, the AI work. I'm a little speechless. I'm just wondering who's steering the ship. I feel like we're all floating around, and I'm just wondering, and again, maybe it's not knowing the structure of all these discussions and past things, so I don't want to speak to anything I'm not knowledgeable about, but I would love to see someone step up, and it sounds like there can be new members, new policy people, and all of that, but I'd love someone to own it. Everything you said, Mrs. Flynn, was spot on. I would love an education. It's very clear that everyone in this room could use a one-on-one on all of this, from definitions to everything else, and I would find that a very interesting topic to sit through and incredibly critical at this time. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, Mick McGarry, Fairfield Education Association. Will be very brief. Just wanted to extend from the teachers a welcome to our new members. Welcome. You have our congratulations, and everyone have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Anyone else? All right, motion to adjourn. Mr. Asa, seconded by Mrs. Jacobson. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.